Hello. Can I go look up myself without? Beep. So it's not that delayed. Do I sound pretty good? Not bad. I mean, I'm not popping and cracking, right? Oh, ooh, what happened there? Did it sound? Oh, sound kind of cut out a little bit. Hold on. Make sure this is like all the way in. Okay. Look at that hair. Look at the hair. How do you How do you get people to like watch? I don't even know. Hold on. Wait, is it too dark if I? Whoa, spooky. You don't want to do that. Okay. Mm. I forgot about my soda. I forgot about my soda. I forgot about my bar blast inside the glass. Wait, now it says there's 0 people watching? Was I the one viewer? The Dashesney boy. The Dashesney boy. So lovely that he's near boy. Good boy. Bum ba 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 ba. Ba 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 ba. Boom, 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 That was a slow Power Ranger. Power Rangers in the Lost Galaxy. Oh, perfect. I am very happy that my dinner is here, so then I can watch the video while I eat. Yeah, 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 yeet. Well, the only reason I feel like I might have a little bit more success on a platform like Twitch is that you can just find random streams. People just tune in, you know? Be an infiltrator. Infiltrator. Let's just stay on YouTube. I don't know. You never know, right? If I just get put in a random queue of like live news and politics stuff, it might work. I got my microphone, my headset. Oh, I understand though why when Destiny like walks away, he fucking look, gotta improve this figure one of these days. As I shove this Sonic down my gullet. Sonic Heroes, Sonic Heroes. Ooh. What's I gotta do this one? I don't know how loud I'm being. And that's actually like the most ideal, as long as I don't sound weird. I can kind of like hear the outside world, which is very important. You've got to hear the outside world. Doobie 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 doodle. Doobie 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 doo world. Doobie 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 doo world. Doobie 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 doo world. I know, my food's here. I got it. It's right here. Doobie 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 doo world. 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 Mhm. Live streaming. Oh my God. That would be such a horrible thing to have pasted. Wait, how do I share the link? Oh, share. Video link. Nice, there it is. Okay, so now let me see. Let me do share screen. I want to share the extended interview. Also share tab audio. Yes. Sharing this tab to studio. There we go. Oh, yeah. Okay. Now, so then it puts me in the corner. Okay. And it's all, okay, cool. That's actually nice. All right. And then full screen it. Or at least theater mode. Well, yeah, we can't full screen it, but yeah. Okay. Oh, cool. Oh, wait, that's sick. I like that it does that. Okay. Ooh, is somebody real watching me? Is that a real number? Not a bot? Not a bot. If you're not a bot, just say not a bot. Because that's how you prove it, right? Not a bot. Wait, can I still hear it though? If I wait, hold on.
Justice Barrett, thank you for inviting us here to the Supreme Court.
I'm so happy.
Ooh, they're at the Supreme. Well, I guess that makes sense. She's not in her robe. She's in her. That's not. That's beyond business casual. It's like just regular professional. She's just not in her like epic. I'm a god outfit. I feel like that's like an intentional thing to like humanize. Oh wow, I got 3 viewers now. Oh my god, there's no way that those are bots. Like a couple minutes after I post it to the Discord, it's got to be some of you guys. Um, kind of cool if it's not. Totally not a bot. Thank you. Great. Now I'm just gonna right click your name and see what options there are. Because this is literally like I haven't. I'm just like I'm green. I'm a rookie. I'm a live streaming rookie. A noob. I know nothing. I was like, how do I screen share? Just figuring everything out. I feel like live streaming is one of those things where you just kind of have to do it, you know? Because like in the right now it's like low stakes. I mean, right? It's not like the whole world could see me right now. There's 3 of you. But like, and then as you get better, then it's going to matter less and less because then even though so many people are watching you, you're kind of like better at it, so you're not going to like stumble in embarrassing ways. Well, like I don't know, whatever. You know what I'm trying to say? Look, anybody, if I have enemies, they'll find this. They'll try to use it against me. Wait, okay, I'm gonna put this. This is Sonic, not Sonic the Hedgehog. The food. The food. Hold on. Everybody has different names everywhere. Am I supposed to know who you are? Are you a different name on other platforms? I've seen the username before, but and if I like really know you, or I'm supposed to know you, then that happens with me all the time. I don't remember like I would say I'm not good with names, but I sometimes I just don't remember people. Sometimes I just straight up don't remember people at all. So you're just a name. Okay. Okay. That's good. Just just a name, just a nameless. No, you're just a name. Just a faceless YouTube, not a bot. Okay. Um it's Coney Barrett time, I guess. I think this is why I hold on. Let me see something. Have we has there ever been like a like TV interviews with Supreme Court justices? Is there like a wiki on it? Must not be something that happens all the time then. Can I get like history of TV interviews with oh here we go. At least we get an AI overview. Thanks, AI overview. Oh, I know what song I was thinking of when you said I'm just a name. Oh, the Billy Joel song. Oh my god, it's so good. We all have a face that we wait forever. Dun, 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 Psh. The Stranger. The Stranger. Oh, that's a good. Oh, that's a good song. Oh my god, that's a good fucking song. That's probably one of the best songs he's ever written. Okay, I'm gonna listen to it after. I'm gonna listen to it after this interview. Oh, I need to hear this interview. Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, history of TV. TV interviews with Supreme Court justices are rare and typically occur only in documentary style formats. Justices generally avoid them to prevent the perceived distortion of court cases. Play to the cameras. Yeah, because they don't have cameras. I mean, yeah, this is. I think this is like a very notable thing. I guess Ketanji Brown Jackson had an interview in 2024, but this doesn't really happen. Like justices on TV. Um, I don't know if I like it. I argued in I argued in a paper I wrote over the summer that I think the Supreme Court needs to be like if there's anything that's going to be like a secular religion, it needs to be our law. It needs to be like the courts. You should feel like I like that they're in black robes and it's intimidating. Like you should feel a bit intimidated by the Supreme Court. Like I just feel like that's necessary. And I wrote a whole paper on it, so I could argue that out. But I don't know. I'm very uncomfortable with the idea of us getting used to seeing them on TV. I don't think that. But I mean, right? It's unprecedented times. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna watch it now.
Justice Barrett, thank you for inviting us here to the Supreme Court.
I'm so happy you came.
It's interesting to look around this room, and there's all men.
True.
It's all of them chief justices,
Well,
right?
they're all chief justices, so they're having.
So right away we have to do the woman thing. Okay. Okay. I mean, whatever. Okay. Okay. It is what it is.
Have been no female chiefs to display as of yet.
Mhm. How do you see how the
Shit, I was muted. God damn it. Well, there you go. Okay, hold on. What I was saying is it was whiplash. I didn't expect there to be a really, really good thoughtful question after the stupid question at the beginning. I thought she was like gonna kind of warm up to it. She just had to like get that out of the way, I guess. Um, okay. Jesus. All right. I don't have anybody viewing, so I'm just gonna eat. Don't worry about it.
Constitution in 1787?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. So the Supreme Court is actually the only federal court that's,
And the land, all of them chief justices,
well,
right?
they're all chief justices, so there have been no female chiefs to display as of yet.
Ah, thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I have. It's learning. I'm learning. Wait, wait. I said I have 0 viewers. This number's shit. It doesn't tell me anything. I've heard this. Is that it's inaccurate or delayed or something? I don't know. But how am I supposed? Well, thank you for letting me know I was muted. Because okay. God damn it. All right. Got to start all the way over. I should just assume that people are listening then, even if it says 0. I guess that's the other lesson there. Okay. What I was saying is, she has a bias here. It was a subtly scary thing she said because. Well, you can hear me now, though, right? My mic's a little further away, but I think it's fine. It's probably picking me up. Wait, hold on. I can answer my own question sometimes. Let's see, answer quickly. Hold on. Brody's muted again. Thanks for that. Okay, I can be heard. Yeah, I can be heard just fine. Okay. All right. Okay. Anyway. Okay, I'm not muted. Okay, everything's good. HOA. Gotta get better at multitasking. Streamer skill. See, now it says 1 again. So now I have, according to my counter, I have reason to believe that somebody's watching. But then it said 0 when Alseer commented. Alser. Alser. Sir. My apologies. um anyway, what I was saying, if anybody's listening to me right now, I'll just say it for my own edification. She has a 1 plus 0 equals 1 viewer. Honestly, yes, this is the math I feel like they use. Yes, this is YouTube math. um, she has a bias here. She, in her explanation of it, where she's trying to sound like she's a school teacher, just teaching us what the courts are. She's reminding us, fucking, the Supreme Court is the only one that's by the Constitution. All the other federal courts are at the behest of Congress, right? That's kind of like, you have to go back and listen. If you go back and listen to it with that in mind, you'll hear you'll kind of hear what I'm talking about. It's a little subtly evil, but you have to pick up on it.
Since the Constitution in 1787?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. So the Supreme Court is actually the only federal court that's actually created by the Constitution. All the other federal courts were created at Congress's choice. And, the Supreme Court.
At Congress's choice. She has a little smile afterwards. Oh God, these some of these people are so scary. By the way, um, she's generally been a justice that, like, well, I think in some instances has kind of saved us. um, but like, she's still kind of like evil. You just like, you can't forget that. You like, it's like so lost with this Marjorie Taylor Greene stuff because it's like, oh my god, like she just is on the right side of the Epstein thing, and she's being super like based and like um aggressive about it. But like she's not one of us, never will be, right? Like unless she like fundamentally flips on like so many other issues. Um, and even then,
It started out without any precedent on the books and had to forge its own way and develop the law just on the basis of the documents. Over time, it got more sophisticated because, well, I think it was always sophisticated. That's not fair to my predecessors, but the number of precedents really swelled. And over time, it really established itself as a strong, independent, coordinate branch of government.
You, you play a unique role on this court. And
besides the subtle evil thing at the beginning, most of that was a pretty just kind of like history book take. Like that's kind of true. Like the Supreme Court we were kind of worried that the Supreme Court would be not like be kind of like weak, but they kind of asserted themselves pretty early on in our history. So she's kind of just right about that, but it's not controversial. Yeah.
legal observers that I have spoken with say, they can usually predict how the liberal justices may rule or how the conservative justices may decide, but that you can be unpredictable. In fact, you've been described to me as the most influential justice on the Supreme Court today. How do you see your role?
Might be
Well,
true.
I think every justice on the court is unique and every justice on the court is influential. So in that regard, I don't see myself as any different. I see myself as
Humble
just
brag.
having the job of listening to the law, of getting the job done. So my job is to decide each case as it comes, and I don't go in with any kind of preconceived notion of where I ought to end up. I just follow the law where it goes.
What does that mean, listening to the law for you? Because it does mean something different for each justice.
Well, I actually don't think it means something different for each justice. Each justice.
What? What? There's no way she's saying that. Hold on, let me hear that again. That's seriously her take,
Listening to the law for you, because it does mean something different for each justice.
right?
Well, I actually don't think it means something different for each justice.
What? What is she gonna say? What's the rest of her explanation gonna be? What the? For real? She's not just gonna bite that bullet and say, yeah, some of us come from different perspectives, but that she kind of already said that. She had the safe answer here. Like, yeah, we're all unique. Like, okay, let me just keep playing.
Each justice goes to the case, to the briefs, to the law, to the cases, to all of the authorities that lead us to the right result. And each justice is trying to get it right. Now, it's true that sometimes people wind up at different answers, but it's not because they're dealing with different questions or different sources. It's just because law is hard, and the cases that the Supreme Court takes are ones in which lower courts have disagreed.
This is your first television interview since joining the court.
Or one in which lower courts have disagreed. I mean, are we saying that like the Supreme Court has historically never had infighting? I mean, I haven't gone through like every chapter of our history yet in like rigorous detail, but I'm pretty sure we had periods of time where the Supreme Court themselves couldn't even agree on things. And it was always more like behind the scenes infighting. I think again, I don't know the history on this that well, as well as I'd like to. In the process of that. um, hold on. Let me catch what she said again. Let's go back a little bit.
And each justice is trying to get it right. Now, it's
Just
true
trying to
that
get it right.
sometimes people
Okay.
wind up at different answers, but
Right
it's
about
not
different
because
answers.
they're dealing with different questions or different sources. It's just because law is hard, and the cases that the Supreme Court takes are ones in which lower courts have disagreed.
So they're saying. So she's kind of saying they're more complicated. They're more complicated, which is probably true. Yeah, they're too complex needs to be dealt with on a national level or whatever. Right. I mean, that's the whole reason for the system of the courts, I guess. I don't know. I don't know why. Well, maybe I do know why. I don't know why she's trying to establish, like, from the jump, like, we're all dealing with the same sources. Because I don't even think that's true half the time. Like, especially with Alito and fucking Thomas. Sometimes the sources they pull in are like, what? So I don't know. I mean, I guess some of this is her. This is interesting. It's kind of her, like, almost going to the public, like trying to sell the legitimacy of the court back to the public. And trying to make her the face of it, because it's like Roberts ain't coming out here to the media and doing this shit, right? She does have the. So far, seems like she has good demeanor for media stuff. She's explaining things well. She sounds very bright and pleasant. Um, but yep, I don't know. Let's keep watching.
This is your first television interview since joining the court.
That is true.
How many years ago?
5.
Yeah. So it's rare.
Yes, it is.
It's rare for journalists or anyone to get to sit down and talk to a Supreme Court justice. So let's get straight to it. President Donald Trump appointed you to cement a conservative legal revolution. Are you concerned about the narrative of this court that it is no longer a separate and co-equal branch of government as designed by the Constitution?
Well, let's
Oh.
see. I disagree with that conception of the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court is an independent branch of government. And presidents appoint justices, and presidents have whatever their own motivations are for appointing justices. But once justices serve on the court, the whole point of life tenure and salary protection, which is guaranteed to federal judges by the Constitution, is to ensure their independence from both the executive branch and from Congress.
So, yeah, descriptive claims will try to save your ass from bad normative shit happening, right? She can just rely on, well, this is what the Constitution says, and this is the reasoning behind it. Presidents may have their own motivations, right? She's never going to arrive at or address the issue, the core issue of, yeah, but what about, like, our. Hold on, let's go back and. So she asked this question a specific way, right?
Talk to a Supreme Court justice. So let's get straight to it. President Donald Trump appointed you to cement a conservative legal revolution. Are you concerned about the narrative of this court that it is no longer a separate and co-equal branch of government as designed by the Constitution?
I have a favorite. Whoever presented that argument, I'm pretty sure it was Sotomayor. She, like, laid down the law when she was going through the birthright citizenship stuff, and the examples she gave, she, like, went through the whole history of it, and, like, that opinion, that was like a golden opinion. It was, and she makes a lot of other really good arguments too, but I think that was Sotomayor. If she was the one who wrote that, that was epic. And she's epic. Probably Sotomayor. But you might have been asking who's my favorite of the conservatives. If that was your question, then that's obviously that's a different answer. I mean, even Kavanaugh had good legal reasoning in that birthright citizenship thing, which is why I'm not really worried about birthright citizenship in this country, because it feels like even like the moderately conservative justices are, like, kind of like, what the fuck? Like, no, we're not doing this, right? So, but yeah. Anyway, what was that? Was I replaying this, or what was I doing? So bad about multitasking, physical multitasking and mental multitasking. You have to, like, it's like a muscle or something you got to develop.
Well, let's see. I disagree with that conception of the Supreme
Oh, so she does say, right? Because I was about to say there was a certain view that was being expressed in the question. It's kind of a loaded question, right? Like, because she kind of stated it as fact, like Donald Trump appointed you to, you know, instill the conservative revolution. So she's saying though, she's like, I kind of disagree with the way you just fucking asked that, actually. Uh,
Court because the Supreme Court is an independent branch of government.
we are independent, I swear.
And presidents
Please believe me. I have a very nice face and a pleasant voice.
appoint justices, and presidents
Yeah, presidents appoint justices, right? It's just a statement of fact.
have whatever their own motivations are
Yeah, whatever their own we don't really know what the motivations are, but whatever.
for appointing justices. But once justices serve on the court, the whole point of life tenure and salary protection, which is guaranteed to federal judges by the
Go back to the
Constitution,
fact. Just
is to
descriptive
ensure
claim,
their
descriptive
independence
claim.
from both the executive branch and from Congress.
But does the reputation of the Supreme Court matter to you?
I want people to have trust in the court, and that's why I wrote this book. Frankly, I wanted people to understand
shit.
how the court works.
I forgot she wrote a book. I forgot she wrote a book. Okay, I'm not gonna I'm not gonna be one of those, the donor class. But okay. So she's doing a book thing. She's got a book thing going on. Well, when people write a book, wait, she wrote a book. Oh my god. I'm getting okay, I just got a weird Handmaid's Tale chill running down my spine. What's in this book? I mean, I'm assuming she's gonna be asked a little bit about it, but oh my god, okay.
I wanted them to understand how we get our cases and how we go about making our decisions, because the court belongs to every American. And I want Americans to feel like they have a stake in the court and they understand what the court does, because what the court does is not the same kind of work that Congress does, and it's not the same kind of work that the president does. Those are the political branches. The court is not one of the political branches.
And how does the Supreme Court make sure that it appears and works in an apolitical manner?
The court deals with the law, and the way that the Supreme Court works, as I describe in the book.
Ooh, okay. This is what I wrote about in my paper. That's exactly what I just wrote about in my paper. How she just said, and the Supreme Court deals with the law. She might as well just said the Supreme Court is the law. And like, I don't think we should take it quite that far. It needs to remain an independent, co-equal branch of government. But we have lost that, like, holy shit, it's the Supreme Court. And when you go to the Supreme Court building, I've never been there myself, but like you can see in pictures, like, when you see a person, like you can get the size reference, like that building is fucking huge. It's tall. Um, like it feels like you're like walking up to like Mount Olympus to see the fucking gods. Like, and it should have that air of like, whoa, okay, whoa, yeah, this is our law, right? Um, I don't know. Yeah, we need a little less soy, a little more Hobbes, right? Like this, the Leviathan is the law, right? Because otherwise, like then the law it has no power, it has no purpose. Can't do what it's supposed to do. People don't have kind of like a healthy fear of the law, right? That's what I like to call it, like a healthy fear of the law. Hobbes was like unhinged, right? He was just like, it's the law, and you better like it. Like, but like we need a little Hobbes. We need a little Hobbes, right? We like our Locks and we like our Rousseaus, but we need a little Hobbes. I think that's okay. Like a little Hobbes is needed, just not like full Hobbes, right? Trump is full Hobbes. He would agree with just like, I have criminals because you just gotta line them up against the wall and just fucking shoot them. They're fucking dead, right? That's the thing, that'll teach them to think twice about committing crime. Yeah, it's just like, yeah, that's unhinged. Yeah. Punch the trash down. Yes, I'm wearing a Taco Bell shirt, but Taco Bell. I'm wearing a Taco Bell shirt, but I ate Sonic. Call me a traitor. if you want. Okay. I'm never gonna get through this.
Isn't political. We don't sit, when you look at the bench, this is one of the things I like to point out to children when they come and visit the court. We sit on the bench. It's not like Congress where you have Republicans on one side and Democrats on another. We sit in order of seniority.
Oh, she would be so sweet teaching kids about the court. Oh, she just has that like school teacher traitor. Yeah, I know. I betrayed my my place. No, not sponsored. Just addicted to it since the age of, I don't know, probably like at least probably middle school was when I started the Taco Bell Mountain Dew thing. Never stopped. Okay. Anyway.
And we wear black robes. And we wear black robes because we show that we are there not representing any particular interest group, not representing any political party, but we are there to be neutral arbiters
The
and to
law.
follow the law where it leads.
Right. Yep.
In June, this court handed President Trump what he called a monumental victory. That was lifting this nationwide injunction that would have blocked his
He called
attempt
it that,
to
too.
deny citizenship to children born of undocumented.
Ooh, misspeak. Did you hear the way she said that? Junked in. Wait. Wrong tab. Oh my god, I gotta get my tabs in order.
President Trump what he called a monumental victory.
He called it a monumental victory. That's true.
That was lifting this nationwide injunction that
Injunctin. Fail.
would have blocked his attempt to deny citizenship to children born of undocumented immigrants on U.S. soil. You wrote the majority opinion in that case, Trump v. Casa, Inc. Why has the Supreme Court shown a willingness to let these controversial executive orders move forward?
I wouldn't say the Supreme Court has shown a willingness to allow controversial executive orders to move forward. Like I said before, the court decides cases as they come, and each case presents its own unique challenges. So,
No. No way she just said that with a straight face. The Supreme Court decides cases as they come? Yeah? Really? Maybe Roberts should have been in this interview instead of you. Oh, that's infuriating. Really? She's going to just say that through her teeth.
controversial executive orders to move forward. Like I said before, the court decides cases as they come.
Yeah. Oh my god. Such a nothing burger response on her part or my part? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I see. Right, you have to, like, oh my, holy shit, so many cases, too little time. Yeah, right. It's like, come on, bro, really, really, like, they didn't just fucking rush the Colorado thing because the election is coming. Right? Come on, dude. It's just, it's so, You know what? This is good though because it reminds me of like why we still hate her. Right, when she does something good, I can just come back to this clip. Be like, oh, okay, yes, that's right. She is evil. Okay, got it. Good. Okay.
And each case presents its own unique challenges. And so in the book, I describe how the decision-making process works.
I gotta buy this book.
It moves slowly. It's reading the briefs, it's listening to arguments, it's talking to law clerks, it's talking to colleagues. So, each case gets a lot of attention and each case requires a lot of analysis and discussion and thought and writing.
But some observers of the
By the way, it doesn't take just me to point out that all that stuff she laid out there that she was trying to make sound like it was just factual. That's all conservative. That's all conservatism. Going all the way back to the whatever his name was, Edmund Burke guy. Okay, the concept of law should move slowly and methodically and carefully, and you talk to the clerks and you study it, right? And the law should change, but it should be very, very slow and careful and cautious. That's all conservatism. Okay, liberalism is like we want to maximize freedom and like equality, right? Egalitarianism bullshit. Um, it's they're different. But they go back further, right? She's trying to like essentially normalize conservatism here. And I'm not even saying like there's aspects of conservatism philosophically that aren't good. um, but just it's like a lot of just people don't have the education to understand what she's doing here. She's like subtly infecting your mind with philosophy and trying to pass it off as fact. Right? It's like, well, like it's not hard fact, scientific, like, yeah. Um, well, yeah, just go back and listen to that again.
Decision-making process works.
The decision making
It
process
moves
works.
slowly.
There you
It's reading the briefs, it's listening to arguments, it's talking to law clerks, it's talking to colleagues. So, each case gets a lot of attention, and each case requires a lot of analysis and discussion and thought and writing.
Mhm. But some observers of the court would say that granting or looking at these emergency orders from the president is not allowing the court to move slowly.
Well, the emergency orders present a challenge because they do require the work of the court to proceed far more quickly than it normally does. I pointed out in the book that there are turtles all over the court because normally the court moves slowly, it changes slowly, justice moves slowly at the court because we are very deliberate. The emergency docket moves much more quickly, and it is a much more recent phenomenon. So I would say that, I describe in the book the way that oral argument has grown and developed over 200 years. It's taken us to kind of settle into the way that we do arguments and opinions. The emergency docket is newer, and so I would say those processes are still being shaped and sorted out.
Help people.
Couple things. Is the emergency docket separate from the shadow docket? Are those two different? Or are this the same thing? Versus shadow docket, Supreme Court. Oh, it's the same thing. The Supreme Court's emergency docket, also known as the shadow docket, consists of applications seeking immediate action from the court. This is what she's saying is a recent thing. How recent? Has there really ever been a need for this since Trump? I mean, I don't want to have Trump derangement syndrome here. Wait, seriously? It only goes back to July 24. Haters will say that was Biden. Biden started it. Is this real though? This only like we only have had this since like very recently? What was the first thing even started from? Should stay the execution of Keith Edmund Gavin? This can't be where this all started. What? I gotta be missing something here. I must be missing something. Hold on. Hold the phone. Wait, can I? Oh, you know what? This is gonna be super crazy. Can I change what I share? Oh, there we go. Now I can change what I'm sharing. Interesting. Oh, yeah. What do I mean by aspects of conservatism philosophically that are good? Just that portion of it. Like, there are some things we should move incrementally about, right? Like it's the whole incrementalism versus revolution. I mean, we shouldn't go so unhinged with changes that like, oh my God, we're like fundamentally changing our system, like uprooting all of our systems. I mean, Trump's kind of doing that, right? That's why it's frustrating because it's like the opposite of conservatism. What Trump is doing, he's like destroying it. It's like radical, fucking, I don't know. Um, it's like he's creating a temporary anarchy within the government to then fill the vacuum that he created. um, it's yeah, it's not conservative, which is weird. But yeah, anyway, like yeah, that's it's kind of like why you need both in society, arguably, because like the conservatives kind of hold our feet to the floor while the liberals like actually expand things and build. So the liberals are still better, but we need like a little conservatism. We need a little conservatism. I think it's important and good. Hopefully that answers your question. Okay. Decided application. So they just recently started this thing called the shadow docket, which is the emergency docket that she's talking about. Oh, shadow docket. Or non-merits docket. First to motions and orders in the Supreme Court of the United States in cases which have not yet reached final judgment. Decision on appeal and oral argument. Stays and injunctions, summary decisions, for shadow docket was first used in this context in 2015 by University of Chicago law professor William O. So some wokey guy, right? Got it. Is a break from ordinary procedure. Such cases receive very limited briefings, are typically decided a week or less after an application is filed. This generally results in short, unsigned rulings. Unsigned? Unsigned? Unsigned is unhinged. That's so we don't even know who wrote it or who like was responsible for the decision. I mean, I guess I'm not trying to advocate for doxing justice, but like, but that they give their opinions not anonymously. Why should this be done anonymous? I don't know. I don't know. Seems a little weird to me. The term has been used by some justices themselves. Yeah, I remember Kagan using the term shadow docket, calling the court's shadow docket decision making every day becoming more unreasoned, inconsistent, and impossible to defend. Right. So see, it's one of those things that's been clearly getting worse. Be Trump, basically. Got it. Got it. Which is the part she's not going to say, right? And if she was pressed on it, she goes, well, technically it started under Biden, so fuck you. Okay. Back to it. Oh my God. I'm only 7 minutes in. I have to let it play for a little bit. I haven't even finished my burger yet.
Understand that because, as you know, there are a lot of questions about the emergency docket and the Supreme Court's decisions with regard to the emergency docket in this last term. For people, generally speaking, President Trump came in promising big and bold reforms, right? He issued a lot of executive orders. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of
Big and
this.
bold reforms.
Lower courts in some cases said that those were unconstitutional.
Not conservative.
And then the president essentially appealing those came to the Supreme Court, correct?
So the way that emergency orders work is they're essentially—
Said they were unconstitutional?
Those were, really speaking, President Trump came in promising big and bold reforms, right? He issued a lot of executive orders. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of this. Lower courts in some cases said that those were unconstitutional.
Oh,
and then the president essentially appealing those came to the Supreme Court, correct?
So the way that emergency orders work is they're essentially motions. And motions used to be pretty sleepy in appellate courts. When I was on the Seventh Circuit, I would serve on a motions panel for 3 weeks at a time. And I maybe wrote 2 or 3 paragraphs once. It was not a heavy lift. And it really wasn't that different at the Supreme Court. When I was a law clerk, the only emergency motions that we had were in capital cases and death penalty cases. And so that has really picked up.
Yeah, why has that changed, do you think, with this president?
Well, I don't know that it started actually several administrations ago.
Several,
And I
okay.
think that it has accelerated with each administration. We had plenty of emergency docket activity in the last, I mean, I've only been on the court in the Biden administration in this most recent one. We had plenty of emergency docket action last term, and people have been.
I mean, she shouldn't be partisan. I wouldn't want to see that from her, right? But like, this is so gross.
And noticing that even terms before that. So it's been on an incline, and I don't know the reasons for that. But essentially, what an emergency request
I don't know the
asks is
reasons
for
for
the court to intervene immediately because
you gotta lay it on thick though.
Justice Kavanaugh has written calling it the interim docket or interim orders because Something has to be said as a status quo while litigation proceeds. So the emergency docket does not resolve
What do we
anything
do in the interim?
finally.
That's a good name for
It's
it.
just a holding. It just says, here's what we're going to do. We're either going to pause this or not pause this while things play out more fully in the courts.
Except some of these questions could just be decided, right? They could just be decided, but they're too pussy because they're like, what if Trump tells us no? Yeah, what if he tells you no? That's the whole fucking problem. And then he just has immunity, so goodbye that.
Well,
So help explain what happened in the Trump v. Casa Inc. case, which was multiple cases, right? Which lower courts were concerned about the constitutionality of President Trump's effort to deny birthright citizenship.
Yes. Actually, that's a really good case to bring up because it shows how this process plays out and how this process works. So a lot of people thought that that case was about birthright citizenship, but the birthright citizenship question was not before us, and we did not analyze that question at all. The only question that was before us was a question that's would sound arcane if you stopped someone on the street and asked them in any other context. It was whether the Judiciary Act of 1789 authorizes district courts to enter what's called universal relief, which is injunctions against non-parties. Very technical issue. One, as a former procedure teacher, I find very interesting, but my guess is that you would not be good
Procedure
for that
teacher.
question.
But in effect, and I may read for those what Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, she dissented, and she accused the majority of which you're a part of, in her words, hastening the downfall of our government institutions. And she wrote in her dissent, a Martian arriving here from another planet would see these circumstances and surely wonder, what good is the Constitution then? Will your decision embolden the executive to act more as a monarchy than a democracy, as Justice Jackson suggested?
So Justice Jackson wrote an opinion speaking only for herself, and you're right, Justice Jackson's position in that case was that she thought that this would, as you say, embolden the executive. The majority, opinion disagreed, and as I said, Justice Jackson wrote a solo dissent, writing only for herself. This case wasn't about what the president can or cannot do. The case
A lone loser wrote by herself. Fucking loser.
was about the authority of the district courts, the authority of the federal courts. And I think one important theme throughout history, one important theme of the book is that federal courts have to be attentive to the limits of their power. And from the beginning, actually, I tell important theme throughout history, one important theme of the book is that federal courts have to be attentive to the limits of their power. And from the beginning, actually, I tell a story in the book about George Washington trying to pull the Supreme Court into a dispute about international law. And the court said, this isn't something that we're going to get involved in because the Constitution only authorizes us to decide cases and controversies, essentially, is how that doctrine has developed. So courts can't decide.
I have never heard that historical anecdote before, but I'm really curious to look it up because I feel like she's given a really bad retelling of it. But that sounds really interesting. I didn't even know George Washington fought with the Supreme Court. That's right from the beginning. Damn. Okay, I need to look that up.
Every question, courts can't leap in all of the time.
But does your opinion essentially drastically alter the ability of courts to check presidential power?
Well, the Judiciary Act of 1789 gives district courts ability to enter what are called equitable injunctions, equitable relief. It does not authorize courts to enter this particular kind of relief. As the opinion says, there may be other.
So she did buy the bullshit common law argument from the guy who can barely speak, not RFK Jr. the Solicitor General. Are you fucking kidding me? So she bought that whole argument, hook, line, and sinker, even though she's like trying to pretend like she's whatever.
There are kinds of relief that broader that courts have the authority to enter. The universal injunction, as courts had entered it in that case, isn't one.
I know that you clerked for Justice Scalia, who was known to have a sharp pen, and you appeared to have a sharp pen in your remarks responding to Justice Jackson. Why did you feel the need to do that?
I think, my default mode isn't to write sharply. And I want to point out, I kind of feel like I always have to say this. One of my colleagues, when I first became a judge, pointed this out, that a majority opinion, even though the author drafts it, is one that speaks for the court. But, I did draft the opinion. And I think sometimes arguments that are, you match the tone that's appropriate for the moment. And Justice Jackson made she made a spirited argument. And so I thought it merited a spirited response. But it is about the merits. It was about the case. I have great respect for Justice Jackson. Justice Scalia used to also say,
How is it possible for these people to just say the same thing and contradict themselves, but no one? So you weren't writing for yourself and being petty, personal and petty, but you also were. I didn't even. I have to read that whole thing. I didn't even know there was like a snide remark towards Jackson's opinion. My God, dude.
I attack ideas, not people. And
Attack
that
ideas,
is the
not
spirit in
people.
which, I write my opinions.
But you did mention her by name. Is that notable?
Well, the only reason why I mentioned her by
Good.
name is because it was a solo dissent. And when there is a solo opinion, it is the convention of the court so that you can identify the opinion that you're responding to, that you do say by name. So when I responded to Justice Sotomayor's opinion, I wrote the principal dissent because she wrote speaking on behalf of the dissenters of the court. But the convention, when someone writes a separate opinion, is to simply refer to them by name. So that wasn't something unique to me.
So any beef between you and Justice
Of course
Ketanji
not.
Jackson?
No. In fact, when Justice Jackson joined the court, I threw her a welcome dinner, and I found out what her favorite foods were. I found out that she really loved the musical Hamilton, and so I had a Broadway singer come and sing her selections from Hamilton. No, one of the things I try to point out in the book, and one thing I want people to know about.
It's like that's how the rich people party, I guess. I just had someone from Hamilton come sing to her. Oh, must be fucking nice.
The court is it's a place where we can have disagreements but still get along, because we can have disagreements that really are confined to the page, that are confined to cases. And so we can debate ideas, sometimes vigorously, as you pointed out, but it doesn't inhibit us in our ability to be colleagues and friends.
And you do write so eloquently about the law and the Constitution in this book. And as the
I don't give a fuck about the justices being friends with each other. Like, ugh, no. Get that the fuck out of the mentality.
Constitution lays out in Articles 1, 2, and 3, the separation of powers with these co-equal branches, right?
Yes.
The executive, the legislative, and the judiciary, the Supreme Court. And so opponents have looked at this
Review for the magatards watching.
last term, opponents of your particular decision in that and some of the other emergency docket decisions, and they worry that this court's approach allows potentially unlawful policies to remain in effect while these lengthy litigation proceeds cause irreparable harm.
While we purposefully delay the cases because we don't give a fuck about the people that the irreparable harm is being caused to. Actually, yeah, I said translate.
Before the actual constitutional questions are resolved. So can you address that? I mean, are justices enabling the president to act without meaningful checks by Congress or the judiciary?
Well, I think the way that you phrased the question is the very idea that I'm trying to dispel in the book. I mean, justices and courts, district courts, are not trying to enable Congress or the executive to do anything. We're deciding cases. And within the power that courts have, they address cases. And sometimes that means that if cases involve the separation of powers, sometimes that means that the executive is within his authority to do something, sometimes not. I also want to point out that all of these decisions, you don't grant, when you have a merits case, the only thing that matters is which is the winning argument, which is the strongest argument, which argument will carry the day. And these emergency docket cases are far more tentative, and there are more factors at play. So what the court is doing is making a judgment about which party is likely to succeed, but then also questions like, what is the irreparable harm if it stays in place? And I think people will disagree with respect to any individual order, whether the court made the right.
That's kind of a not great admission. If you like understand, you don't have to read too much into that. She's saying that we disagreed on the irreparable harm, which is what I just fucking said. We don't care enough about the people that the harm was done to. This is not a priority, right? Because like, oof, not good, not great. Glad we got her honesty though, I guess. So we know.
Right judgment about the merits or not. But that really, I think insofar as the question might suggest that the court has some agenda or some motive, that's just wrong.
But so to summarize, in the so-called birthright citizen shape, you did not rule.
You should have a motive. You should have a clear vision of how you want the Supreme Court to be and what you believe the judiciary. She's just giving such standard, like, may the best argument win. Okay, what makes the best argument? What are your underlying principles used to judge the strength of it? Okay.
On the substance of birthright citizenship.
No.
So that issue will likely come back to this court. The constitutionality of it.
I would expect it to, yes. And then we'll have a different question than we did before. Before, the question was procedural. That was the only question that was before us. And you have to answer it when someone comes. You either have to grant or deny on that question, applying the factors that the law requires in that particular circumstance. I think one thing that the court...
Sotomayor, I believe she was the one who also gave maybe it was Kagan. I don't feel like looking it up right now because it's too hard. Somebody gave the argument about the guns, and that's what was so. Oh shit! The shit turned off. That's what was so. That was such a powerful argument because she said, imagine it was about this. It was about the injunctions. Imagine that the government came. There was a radical leftist president, and he was like, no more guns. I'm just gonna come and take them all, right, by executive order. And he hires his secret police, masked, plain clothes police, and comes and takes your fucking guns, right? And then you try to fight in the courts, and they go, well, guess we're just not going to decide on the merits of the Second Amendment. Sorry. Like, that's basically what they're saying. That's what this is. Okay, hold on. Who gave that argument? Because that's the argument. That's the winning argument, in my opinion. It's insane that it was in the dissenting opinion. Oh fuck! It's Trump v. Casa dissent. There we go. Sometimes I know how to find things. Okay. Kagan. So maybe it was Kagan then, because this says Kagan and Jackson. My take on birthright citizenship is that it's based and it's historical, and like it's clear as day that's what we have, that like in this country, and per the amendment, or like the text of it, per the spirit of it, per everybody who's argued it for like that's like 100 plus years. I think we have it. So Trump wants to try to make shit up and think that he can play semantics with a certain clause, which is also stupid because someone else gave a really good argument about this, right? If you're gonna try to give shit to the subject to the jurisdiction of, and say that, and basically claim like, well, illegals aren't subject to, that's stupid, because if they're called illegal immigrants or illegal aliens, that means that they're subject to the laws because they broke the law. If they're not subject to the law, then you can't call them illegal, and then they're allowed to be here. It's like the whole thing's just self-defeating. And yeah, and I think in this case, right, it's just that's why I find this argument about the Second Amendment where they made the comparison, right? Because like you MAGA people basically calling them out, you'd be pissed. Like, what? We can't, and they just took our guns. We can't get them back. That's it. Goodbye, guns. I mean, that wouldn't even happen. That would be civil war. That would just be civil war then. It's ridiculous. Um, is there like wait, response to? No, this isn't it. Where is the dissent? This isn't it. Ugh. Oh yeah, I needed that one. Like that clip of the Alabama governor. Ugh. And she gets that burp from like way down below. it's, it's intense. Is this it? Trump oh, and then I can search for dissent, right? Actually, I just want to search for Second Amendment. Unless did they do it like 2ND? Second Trump administration. Secondly, second. Oh, here we go. Is this the only place they talk about it? Right here. So I think this is it. I don't feel like sharing it. I'm just gonna read it. Shapiro. Wait, why is it citing Shapiro? Why is it citing Shapiro? Why did I just see Shapiro? Oh, D. Shapiro. That's not. What's the name of the guy we're reading in class? Oh my god. Name it ain't Benny Boy. It's not Ben Shapiro. I don't think it was with a D though. Oh, Scott. Oh, Scott Shapiro. Okay. I was like, are they citing the guy that I'm reading in class? Okay. The law must comport with the principles underlying the Second Amendment, but it need not be a dead ringer or historical twin. Hold on, I guess I probably have to search for something else because Kagan, Second Amendment comparison? No, it's gonna come with a bunch of other bullshit. I don't know how to find it. I don't know how to find it. It was a super great argument. It just makes sense, right? They would be pissed if the guns were gone and there was no way to do it. Like, yeah, it's the same logic.
Has to do. The court has to decide questions without regard to who the particular players are at any moment in time, because what we are doing is deciding what the law means in a way that will affect the future. So it's not about who is particularly occupying the office of the presidency right now, because this opinion, this decision that we decide today will still govern, 2 presidents, 4 presidents, 6 presidents from now. John Marshall, who was appointed by
But that doesn't necessarily mean that these don't continue to have like it's not like they're trying to keep Trump in power forever. That's not what they're necessarily thinking to do or trying to do. But like you've already done enough damage to our institutions that at this point it doesn't even matter now, right? Someone that's Trumpy enough will just carry the torch. And they're already planning for that anyway. I think if the people around him don't already know that he's dying and are already hiding it, I think they've already made a contingency plan. Like there's people, I mean, so funny, like people accuse Biden of having handlers and shit. Like, dude, the people handling Trump, they're running the show. I mean, his PR team, well, to the extent he even has PR, because he kind of just posts whatever he wants. But he has a team that is at least running around after him, cleaning up his mess. Will do, Al sir. Thank you. Peace. Okay. I'm just gonna stay on in case there's anybody else random watching. Oh yeah, I love that. Thank you. You dabbing it? Wait. No, it goes this way. I don't know. God damn it. Okay. See you around. I'm just gonna watch the rest of this whole thing and just enjoy my soda.
By President Adams, wrote an opinion as a circuit justice about whether Thomas Jefferson had to respond to a subpoena in the trial of Aaron Burr. That case was cited multiple times in the last 10 years. So cases matter, and it is about the presidency rather than the president.
Mhm. And I know part of your writing this
Right.
book too is to help people
Right.
understand the court.
Yes.
And it can be difficult, even as a journalist who follows this and goes back and reread everything to fully understand things. So forgive kind of the repeated questions because I am trying to make sure that people fully understand it.
Yeah.
But in sum, this court has issued stays or limited injunctions in cases regarding birthright citizenship, foreign aid funding freezes, federal workforce reduction. Can you answer that question? Do these repeated emergency or shadow docket interventions by the Supreme Court risk undermining public trust, especially if they are perceived to be politically motivated and favorable to President Trump?
Well, I
True.
think that the point of the book is that justices and judges, I want to include all federal judges in this, are deciding things on the merits. And I think that to the extent that any decision makes us unpopular, that's part of the price of the job. We have to make our best judgment about what the law requires, and sometimes that might mean that the executive branch succeeds in litigation and sometimes not.
I don't know if they could if they're allowed to just straight up ask her, but I would have loved to just get a straight answer like, do you stand by the constitutionality of birthright citizenship? I it's like, I mean, this lady says not often you get to talk to a Supreme Court justice. It's like, yeah, why don't you ask the really why don't you ask the really good questions? Uh
It's not our job to look across the docket and say, oh, we want to even things out so that sometimes the executive branch wins some, sometimes it loses some. That's the antithesis of what our job entails. Our job entails making legal judgments about the cases that come before us. And we really can't, I mean, we want the court, and I want the public to have trust in the integrity of the court. But the court can never change its decisions, its judgments about what the best what the right outcome is in order to tailor it to public opinion. The court's supposed to render unpopular decisions sometimes because sometimes the right legal answer isn't necessarily the popular one.
Mm-hmm. And just to close the loop on that, because you used the word in responding to Justice Jackson, you used the word imperial judiciary. Do you believe what the lower courts have done in terms of their injunctions constitutes an imperial judiciary?
No, and that I think that the lower courts are doing exactly what the Supreme Court is doing and trying to do the best they can with cases that are coming in really quickly. I used that phrase imperial judiciary in response to a vision of the judiciary in which the role of the judiciary was to, in a more freewheeling way, check the other branches, which is not the judiciary's role. The judiciary, remember I brought up that technical Judiciary Act of 1789? The judiciary is hemmed in by statutes. Congress tells us what we can do. It's hemmed in by the Constitution, and it's important for us to attend to those limits and not blow past them for the sake of results.
But why not just let the lower court rulings stay, the injunctions, and then wait till it simmers up to the Supreme Court?
We have to answer these interim questions when they come. And I think, I think you're assuming that in a lot of these questions, the president is likely to lose on the merits. But remember, all of these judgments, these are legal questions that we have to make our best judgments about. And these cases necessarily reflect our view, tentative though it is at the time, that the president is likely to succeed on the merits. And one point that I make in the book, and I really love this observation, Justice O'Connor is one of the ones who made it, that when you look at the docket of the court, you are likely to see that it is a mirror of whatever the domestic issues are in the country at the time. And that was true, during desegregation. That was true, during the Great
FDR,
Depression. Yes,
FDR
yes,
is
yes.
his expansion of executive power.
100%. And now, if you look at our docket, I think you can very reliably see a mirror of the domestic issues that are, people are debating in the country now.
And to observers who say that this president is pushing the boundaries of executive power, maybe overreaching, and the Supreme Court is not providing an adequate.
Was she trying to say that Trump might win on the merits of birthright citizenship, or are we talking about something else? That's like a subtle answer to the question I wanted asked. Not the right one, though.
Quick check on that.
The Supreme Court, and I can speak for myself in the way that I make these decisions. It's not our job to survey and decide whether, the current occupant of an office in this particular moment is, to form a political view. That's the job of journalists. That's the job of other politicians, or that's the job of the people. But our job is to decide these legal questions. And so in the cases that we've decided, what I can say and what I try to explain in the book is that we're trying to get the law right.
As you know, President Trump has deployed the National Guard here in the nation's capital, and he says he's going to do the same elsewhere to crack down on crime. Is President Trump right when he says he has unlimited power to deploy the National Guard in any state?
So we don't have any cases pending before us that I'm aware of. I would not be surprised if there are some cases pending
I can't give my opinion, which is probably correct, but also cringe.
below. And so I can't answer that question.
Yep.
But actually, this is a good opportunity for me to say why I can't answer that question, because it's something I cover in the book. Any particular legal issue, I might be sitting there with my kids and watching TV, and I might have an idea about it. But if I'm going to decide something as a judge, it really has to happen in the context of a particular case, because judges have to approach things with an open mind on a specific set of facts. We read briefs. I listen to oral argument. I talk to my law clerks. I write out notes. I look at the cases. I talk to my colleagues. And at any step of that process, I might change my mind from my initial reaction. In fact, I often do. And so not only should I not, but I don't think you would want me to be in a position where I would just shoot from the hip and say, oh, yeah, I think that's constitutional, or oh, no, I think that's not. That's really kind of the opposite of the judicial role.
But you are.
It's like typical like snaky conservatives that are like smart, like she is. Technically correct and even broadly correct, but there's a subtle like poison in the answer, and you have to be able to detect it because it's very, very subtle. Wait, let me go back. Even if nobody's listening to me right now, it's good to practice my ability to react and stuff like that. Yeah.
I might change my mind from my initial reaction. In fact, I often do. And so not only should I not, but I don't think you would want me to be in a position where I would just shoot
You
from the
won't
hip
want me
and say,
to.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
the
that's
reaction.
true. We wouldn't
I
want
talk
that.
to my law clerks. I
Yeah.
write out notes. I look at the cases. I talk to my colleagues. And at any step of that process, I might change my mind from my initial reaction.
The whole problem is just that the whole problem is the birthright citizenship thing. It's like she's clearly just at the very least she's delaying a conflict there. Very clearly. It's just, yeah, it's gross.
Action. In fact, I often do. And so not only should I not, but I don't think you would want me to be in a position where I would just shoot from the hip and say, oh, yeah, I think that's constitutional, or oh, no, I think that's not. That's really kind of the opposite of the judicial role.
But you are a scholar of the Constitution, so I do also want to ask you, do you believe that the power to impose tariffs is something the Constitution gives to the president, or is that left to Congress?
And I have to give the same answer again, because that one actually is pending in the courts, and we may well dare I say, likely will see that case. And so same thing goes. That's the kind of thing, it's a wait and see. I'm not trying to hide the ball, and I'm sure that not only you, but probably others would be interested in, what I think about that question. I don't know what I think about that question yet, I can honestly say. Stay tuned. If that case comes before us, and after I dive in and read all the relevant authorities, then
Again, it's Schrodinger's political Supreme Court. We're not political, but we kind of are political because like we kind of like wait on that because like I guess I could give you my opinion on like past cases. Well, I guess she hasn't done in this interview, so maybe she wouldn't. I don't know, but we're not political, but we kind of like in the back of our mind, like and in the front of our mind, are like thinking about the political consequences.
I'll draw a conclusion.
And will be really interesting, I think, too, because before I asked you that question, too, I just kind of went back and looked and saw that the U.S. Constitution explicitly grants Congress the power to collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. That's
Oh, I
Article
fucking
1,
read
Section
it.
8.
You're a
Bitch.
scholar of the Constitution,
Well,
Nora.
I don't know. You're making me one.
Oh, you know the passive.
Slowly but
it's so
surely.
passive
Slowly but
and
surely.
cunty.
Something you do address in the
Oh,
book
yeah, I guess a little
is
Miss
the
Scholar
amendment
here.
process to the Constitution. And a few weeks ago, President
Hold on,
Trump
I gotta
said
get
he
my-
would probably not seek a
Oh,
third
little
term,
Miss Scholar
although
here,
he has
huh?
told
Yeah, just Scholar
CNBC
of the
that he'd like to run
Constitution.
amendment
I
process.
guess
You're
you just
making me
fucking
one.
read it.
It's Congress the power to collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises. That's Article 1, Section 8.
You're a scholar of the Constitution, Nora.
Well, I don't know. You're making me one.
You're the Scholar of the Constitution. Yeah, you're so smart.
Slowly but surely. Slowly
So
but
smart,
surely.
and then I can just and then we just laugh that away. Like we get no answer whatsoever. Oh my god, dude.
Something you do address in the book is the amendment process to the Constitution. And a few weeks ago, President Trump said he would probably not seek a third term, although he has told CNBC that he'd like to run. You explicitly write in the book that the
CNBC.
Constitution, quote, leaves
Run by
no
the
room for
Russians.
second guessing when it comes to term limits.
The 22nd Amendment sets a 2-term limit. That was after, you mentioned FDR recently. He, of course, served 4 terms or was elected president 4 times. And the 22nd Amendment was passed after that.
Ooh, got her. So it's okay to give your opinion on this amendment. Oh, is that a political issue? It's not? Wait, what?
So really, I can't say anything else but just point to the 22nd Amendment. If you ask the question, how many terms a president can serve, I would point to the 22nd Amendment.
And same
I
thing
want to
with
ask you
birthright citizenship.
about the independence of the judiciary and the frequent attacks as of late on the judiciary. And it's coming from all sides. You have been criticized and you have received death threats, correct?
Yes.
And how do you deal with that?
Unhinged, by
Let's
the way.
see.
All from
Criticism,
MAGA.
I tune it out. As you say, I receive a lot of criticism. I receive criticism from both sides. And
No, it's
so
been from MAGA.
my husband and
The
I
death threat
and
part.
my assistants and I have a need to know rule. And I just don't read news about myself unless they think I need to know, unless it's something I have to know. Because I think it's best not to frankly, even the good stuff or
Ryan
the
runs
bad
the
stuff
household.
in your head, because
That's
I don't
right.
want to be making my decisions. I don't even want to be tempted to making decisions based on whether I think they will make people elicit praise or elicit criticism. As for the violence, I think that it should not be the price of public service for any official, judges included, to face violence or threats of violence. And of course, my colleague, Justice Kavanaugh, actually had an armed man come to his home. Fortunately, did not enter the home.
He did? Fuck, I should be writing things down. Wasn't there something I was going to look up? Oh, her retelling of the George Washington thing. Yeah.
So, I'm very grateful that we have the protection of the Supreme Court police to protect our safety.
So then I wonder what you think about when high-ranking officials, whether they're from the executive branch or members of Congress, issue personal attacks on members of the judiciary.
Attacks come from everywhere, and judges have been
Members of Congress.
to protect our safety.
So then I wonder what you think about when high-ranking officials, whether they're from the executive branch or members of Congress, issue personal attacks on members of the judiciary?
Attacks come from everywhere, and judges have been under attack at other points in history. There were certainly, I talk in the book about threats that judges received, especially in the South, after Brown versus the Board of Education was decided. I think that's part of the job. I referenced John Marshall in the
Yeah, and who
trial
was
of
that? Who
Aaron
are those
Burr a few
people?
moments ago. He was burned in effigy
What a similar
after that
crowd.
trial because education at other points in
Issue personal attacks. So then I wonder what you think about when high-ranking officials, whether they're from the executive branch or members of Congress, issue personal attacks on members of the judiciary.
Attacks come from everywhere, and judges have been under attack at other points in history. There were certainly, I talk in the book about
She
threats
talking
that
about death threats though, or
attacks
she's
come.
They're from the executive branch or members of Congress, issue personal attacks on members of the judiciary.
Attacks come from everywhere, and judges have been under attack at other points in history.
Issue personal attacks. So then I wonder what you think about when high-ranking officials, whether they're from the executive branch or members of Congress, issue personal attacks on members of the judiciary.
Attacks come from everywhere, and judges have been under attack at other points in history. There were certainly, I talk in the book about threats that judges received, especially in the South,
Right,
after
which points
Brown
of
versus
those
the
that
Board of
history,
Education was
that's
decided.
kind of important.
I think that's part of the job. I referenced John Marshall in the trial of Aaron Burr a few moments ago. He was burned in effigy after that trial because he made a ruling that was unpopular because it led to a not guilty. Aaron Burr wasn't ultimately convicted. So I think that's part of the risk of the job. Many judges and justices before me have faced criticism and threats, and I am sure that will be true in the future. It's why it requires a stiff spine.
Let's talk about the overturning of Roe versus Wade and Casey. The Dobbs decision, which reversed Roe versus Wade. Why did you agree with your conservative colleagues to overturn a woman's constitutional right to an abortion?
Ooh,
Um,
got her.
So I talk about that in the book, and I describe the reasoning. I describe what the doctrine was, and those of us who were in the majority, were applying doctrine, and I'll get technical since you asked me, to be technical. So the doctrine that was at issue is called the due process. It's called substantive due process. The constitutional provision that's relevant is the due process clause
of the 14th Amendment.
I told you we're a constitutional scholar. And so, of course, abortion or any medical procedure is not mentioned in the Constitution. And so the grounding of Roe versus Wade was the phrase in the due process clause that no one shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. And because, that isn't, the rights that are housed in the word liberty and the due process clause, they're not spelled out, and that stands in contrast to things like the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, the freedom from unreasonable searches and seizures. So the question is, how do you decide? Because I don't think that, well, certainly my children would say they don't want me deciding under the law of Amy what liberties, what rights we have and not. I mean, that's a job for the American people. And the Constitution leaves virtually every question like that to the democratic process, to the American people. The exception, this doctrine that the court has developed that's called substantive due process, looks to see which rights, which liberties are so firmly rooted in the history and traditions of the American people that they go without saying. So the Constitution didn't even have to spell it out because it is so utterly obvious to everyone that those liberties are protected. And for the reasons that the court says, in great detail in Dobbs, abortion was not one of those. And one of the stories that I tell in the book, in which I firmly believe, I've given you like a little snapshot, is that people should read the court's opinions. And so I think that the Dobbs opinion, I tell the story of my brother-in-law bringing the Dobbs opinion and all the separate opinions and the dissents to our family vacation. And I was, I hugged him because I always encourage people.
She wrote this in the book or in the opinion?
to read opinions, and not everyone takes me up on the offer. But I really think all Americans, it's obviously a decision that's important and that got a lot of attention. And I really encourage people to read it.
Mhm.
All the opinions, dissents too.
And so I did. I figured if your
Got her.
relative can come to vacation.
Good for you.
I didn't
Got her.
print them out and bring them with me, as did a member of your family, but I did go back and read them too, to make sure that I fully understood the decision that was made by the majority
Yeah.
and also understand the dissent
Yes.
by the justices in the minority. And so one of the questions that has come up since this Supreme Court has ruled that abortion was clearly not in the Constitution, but is also not a fundamental right under the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, is that there are a number of other rights that Americans enjoy that are also not in the Constitution. And those are, as you know, and include contraception and gay marriage. And so are those now threatened? Because that has been the charge that has made. If this Supreme Court can do away with abortion, that gay marriage and contraception and perhaps other things are next.
What's she going to say?
Let's see. Dobbs was very specific, and it addressed one right, and that was the abortion right.
Okay.
And I think for those other cases, what you have to look at is, as I described, liberty under the Due Process Clause encompasses those things that Americans embrace that go without saying. And I think marriage, and I think I pointed out in the book that contraception, which was recognized to be a liberty right in a case called Griswold versus Connecticut.
Oh boy.
Even at the time, that statute had been an outlier. And so I described that in the book. And I think what you have to ask yourself is, what rights really...
This is Handmaid's Tale. I'm terrified now. This is Handmaid's Tale. It's happening. It's real. She's the sweetest sounding, most polite, evil Christo-fascist. This is insane. This is insane. Oh my gosh, she's doing this in the nicest way, saying, I don't know, your little gay marriage you like so much, contraception, contra what shit now? Oh, come on.
Go without saying, that are so firmly rooted in the minds of the American people that everyone would agree. I think the main message of Dobbs, I think the main message of that portion of the book where I discuss that, is that those decisions are not the Supreme Court's to make. Most decisions, I said this a moment ago, virtually every decision is left to the democratic process, because you don't want the Supreme Court picking and choosing which rights
so she's going to dodge it.
should be fundamental, and which rights it thinks should be removed from the democratic process.
But gay marriage wasn't left up to the democratic process.
What do you mean?
Well, it was the Supreme Court that ruled that it was constitutional.
Well, what the Supreme Court said in Obergefell was that marriage, which other cases had recognized as a constitutional right, was constitutionally protected. So, I mean, really the point here is it's a role of the question. So many cases in constitutional law boil down to who decides. Is it a decision that's left?
I don't have to answer this because I can hide behind the traditions of we don't give our opinion on it unless it's a case that's directly immediately before me. And then even then it's just, well, then at that point she would have published an opinion that you can go read. It's like, just then read my opinion. It's like she's never just going to give an off the cuff, like off paper opinion on anything. It'll never happen. It's pointless to even ask.
To the political branches and the political process, or is it one that the Constitution itself says that is removes from the political process?
Mm-hmm. I want to follow up on that because in Justice Clarence Thomas's concurring Dobbs opinion,
I want to read the comments after this.
He said that he believes the Supreme Court should reconsider past ruling in regards to contraception access, same-sex relationships, and same-sex marriage.
You're talking about Thomas, yeah.
And I went back and read it as you suggested.
Good.
He said, we should reconsider all of this court's substantive due process precedences, including Griswold, Lawrence, Obergefell, because any substantive due process decision is demonstrably erroneous.
Got her.
You did obviously not sign on to his concurrence. So let me just to be clear.
Got her.
Do you see those precedents that relate to contraception and same-sex marriage? Do you see those, any threat of those being overturned?
Well, as you say, Justice Thomas was writing just for himself. Justices have different views
Loser.
about when to write concurrences and not. I didn't write in that.
She can always just shit on the other person by saying they were writing by themselves. She did it for both sides. When it was Justice Jackson, she's like, "Yeah, well, that was just that bitch over there in the corner writing by herself." And now Thomas, well, that was just Thomas, crazy Thomas over here. He wasn't with us. He wasn't the majority opinion. So fuck you.
Case. And, when a justice writes a concurrence, the justice gets to speak in his or her own voice and say what he or she
Their own
thinks
schizo
himself, as
ranting.
opposed to a majority opinion where there's a lot of debate and back and forth.
Right.
Describe in the book, we spend a
Right.
lot of time negotiating and, circulating internal memos. I like this language. I don't like that language.
Right.
And Justice Kavanaugh also had a concurring opinion when she said, overruling Roe does not mean the overruling of those precedents and does not threaten or cast doubt on those precedents, referring to contraception and gay marriage. So let me ask you, are the rights of gay marriage, are the rights of marriage and contraception, quote, deeply rooted in the nation's history and tradition and implicit in the concept of ordered liberty?
Well, we have precedents that say that they are, as I point out in the book. And I think, people who write concurrences get to, you can see a window into what those individual justices think. And it's a way in which they can speak in their
She
own
ever wrote
voice,
a
free of
concurrence? Probably
having to
not.
represent the views of others, in the same way that sometimes the author of a principled dissent and certainly the author of majority opinion does. So I think you can look at those opinions and you can see what a separate opinion says about the justice who wrote it. I don't write separate opinions that often. I'm pretty
Not often. Okay.
sparing about when I write separate opinions because, as a general rule, I think it's good to let the court speak for itself. So I write separate opinions only in rarer circumstances.
See, now that's where my idea that goes too far for me. Like that, no, we're not going to say let the court speak for itself. Wait, are you just standing around some kind of goblet of fire, summoning the court? And like, it's you guys are the court, okay? We get that part. It's not like the wizard. I don't want it to be like the Wizard of Oz. Like, this mysterious thing. There's a man behind the curtain. Like, no, we see the men behind the curtain. Like, we're good on that part. Like, don't need to make it like the court. The court speaks for itself. Please bring me 120 Greek orbs for each power cell I contain.
I understand that. And so that's what I'm trying to get, because you do write in the book, you say, you do suggest that those are fundamental rights and that the right to an abortion is not. You wrote in the book, the court has held that the rights to marry, engage in sexual intimacy, use birth control, and raise children are fundamental, but the rights to do business, commit suicide, and obtain abortion are not.
Right. I'm describing the doctrine.
The right to do business is not fundamental? Did I hear that right?
Control and raise children are fundamental, but the rights to do business, commit suicide, and obtain abortion are not.
I mean, I would say obviously on the second two, those are like really hotly debated. If you have the right to commit suicide or if you have the right to an abortion, do business. Did she just throw that in there to make it seem like she's being critical of the conservative side? You don't have a right to do business. Yeah, you do. Because how do you do anything then? Then there's no capitalism. Is she saying that's? I mean, okay, based, I guess. The fuck? Because I mean, I'm like, yeah, unless you're gonna grow your own food and make your own clothing, you're gonna have to do business with somebody. How do you live? How do you do anything at all? That's not fundamental. What? I gotta read this book. That's so stupid.
Right. I'm describing the doctrine. I was a con law professor for many years. Yes, I describe the doctrine in the book, and that is the state of the law, which I described in the book because I want people to understand it. I want Americans to understand the law and that it's not just an opinion poll about whether the Supreme Court thinks something is good or whether the Supreme Court thinks something is bad. What the court is trying to do is see what the American people have decided. And sometimes the American people have expressed themselves in the Constitution itself, which is our fundamental law, sometimes in statutes. But the court should not be imposing its own values on the American people. That's for the democratic process.
And so,
What a really weird, slippery answer. She's really kind of like slipping back and forth between like, this is the law, and then like, but also like the people kind of bubble up and decide it. She's kind of like saying like the people bubble up and decide it at certain key moments, but we can't just like have that just like wax and wane, which again is, I mean, it's fair. Um, but not she's she's mm, snake. This is the wolf in sheep's clothing right here. This is a wolf in sheep's clothing. Watch out. Like this gives me straight up Handmaid's Tale vibes. Even with the book and doing like, didn't she do a press tour? Did like the character in the show, or what was the book first? But this is scary. I'm scared. I'm scared now.
when Hillary Clinton, for example, says, "What's next?" She said, "My prediction is the court will do to gay marriage what they did to abortion."
Well, I think people who criticize the court or who are outside say
Hillary Clinton, for example, says, "What's
Hillary-
next?" She said,
the
Hillary
court should
Clinton?
not be imposing its own values on the American people. That's for the democratic process.
and so when Hillary Clinton, for example, says, "What's next?" She said, "My prediction is the court will do to gay marriage what they did to abortion."
Well, I think people who criticize the court or who are outside say a lot of different things. But again, the point that I make in the book is that we have to tune those things out. So,
But you also say in the book that the rights to marry and engage in sexual intimacy and use birth control and raise children are fundamental.
yes, again, I'm describing what our doctrine is, and that is what we've said.
So we talked about the due process clause of the 14th Amendment.
Oh God, the slippery in that. Because she could weasel her way out of that. It was descriptive. She said that I was just describing the doctrine, and that is what we have said. Oh God. Mm. God damn it.
But the other issue is precedent. And in the
Right.
confirmation process, of course, the United States Senate votes on your confirmation, and you go
Right.
in and meet with a number of senators. And most recently, I did sit down with Senator Murkowski, who said that she had thought that in her conversations with you, that you had said she did not accuse you of lying. She actually
Okay.
writes that in the
I'm
book.
glad to hear
She says,
that.
but she says she thought that she heard you say that you would respect precedent when it had to do with Roe versus Wade.
Let's see. I was very careful throughout the entire confirmation process. And Nora, as a journalist, I'm sure you have watched many confirmation hearings, as all nominees are. You can't make any guarantees to anyone, whether it be the president who nominated you or senators who are voting on your confirmation, because that would violate every rule of judicial ethics to make promises in advance about what you would do and what you would not do. In fact, something that a lot of people don't know is you have to fill out questionnaires for the Senate before you go into the hearings as part of the nomination process. And one of the questions that's asked is whether anyone in the executive branch, while your nomination process was going on, asked how you would rule on any particular case. And you have to disclose that, if so, precisely because the Senate wants to ensure that you haven't made any promises going in, promised to the president, whoever your appointing president may be, this is how I'll rule in this case. So in exchange for this job, in exchange for your vote, I will vote a certain way. And that's because even in the course of the nomination and confirmation process, there's an acknowledgement of the independence of the judiciary. And so it is true, and I would say that even now, as would all of my colleagues, we all respect precedent. You could just look at any Supreme Court opinion and you can see the number of prior cases that it cites. But precedent itself, the doctrine of stare decisis, builds in there.
It's all pretty tricky because I mean these senators were stupid to even try to get a straight answer because she wasn't. And Murkowski probably asked that in a way that's like, "Are you going to respect precedent?" Yeah, we right. We did respect precedent. It's not. She's not going to say. She's not going to tell you. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm cool with Roe v. Wade. We're not. It's not going anywhere. She'll never answer that because she could go back to this and say, "Yeah, we have to be neutral, and you just never know what the fuck we're gonna do." Because that's neutrality now. It's like, whoa, whoa, holy sh, whoa, whoa, what the fuck? Whoa, just switch. Whoa, whoa, now over here, now over here. That's neutrality. Oh my god.
Builds in the conditions for overruling so that mistakes are never frozen and never etched in stone, because the court is a human institution and it makes mistakes.
Like she already wore it as a mark of on a badge of honor that you don't know what decision she's gonna make. It's like, I don't know about that one, Chief. And then with all the other things she's saying and all the other values she's alluding to, she's Walther Stone or whoever that woman. That's not the right name at all. Or Handmaid's Tale. This is her. This is her. What is it? Wait, what does her husband look like? Amy Coney Barrett husband. I'm gonna. Okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, he looks like, yeah, Jesse M. Barrett. He's like, well, he's got a little bit more of the look in this picture. Dude, look at this picture of. Oh my God! Wait. If anybody's even watching right now, I'm just gonna make sure you can see this. Holy shit! Dude. Oh my God. That is so scary. How do you wait? Can't you pull up the picture bigger? Is that it? No, that's like takes a picture of it. So dumb. Okay, boomer. Anyway, that's Handmaid's Tale right there. That's scary. Even like I don't know. It's like her blue eyes, and then just like that's scary. What a scary photo. Is that them kissing? Wait, shit. Look at that. Wait, there's like too much people have picked some bad. Wait, is this them? Oh, it is. Why? Look, he's standing so awkwardly. Look, they're not even like. They're. I'm sorry. Why is there so much space between? Why though? What could they just? They didn't know. They don't know how to do like the theatrical. You gotta like, yeah, because otherwise then the lips don't. they, and they look like that. Oh boy. Oh boy. Okay, I'm almost fucking done. Oh my god, I have class. I gotta go to bed. I gotta finish this.
You know, we would not have had Brown versus the Board of Education overruling Plessy versus Ferguson if stare decisis did not allow for the correction of mistakes.
Mm-hmm. I want to read something just from the minority dissent on the court.
Sure.
For Dobbs, about what essentially the effect of overturning Roe versus Wade would be. And that dissent was signed by Justices Breyer, Kagan, and Sotomayor.
Mm-hmm.
They wrote, the court may now face questions about the application of abortion regulations to medical care most people view as quite different from abortion. What about the morning after pill, IUDs, in vitro fertilization? And how about the use of dilation and evacuation of medication for miscarriage management?
Questions?
Do you see those as issues that are coming about now as a result of Dobbs?
Let's see, those are issues inherent in medical practice, and sure, they surround pregnancy care and the care of women. And those are issues that are left now to the democratic process, and the states are working those out. We have not had those cases on our docket. But the central message of Dobbs did not render abortion illegal. Dobbs did not say anything about whether abortion is immoral. Dobbs said that these are questions that are left to the states. All of these kinds of questions, decisions that you mentioned that require medical judgments, are not ones that the Constitution commits to the court, to decide how far into pregnancy the right of abortion might extend. The court was in the business of drawing a lot of those lines before. And what Dobbs says is that those calls are properly left to the democratic process. And the states have been working those out. There's been a lot of legislative activity and a lot of state
Talk
constitutional
about Handmaid's
activity
Tale. Jesus.
since the decision in Dobbs was rendered. So again, it's who decides. It's a question of, is the court in the business of making those decisions, or are those decisions better left to the political branches to work out, where people can make their voices heard, where people can debate, and people can draw compromises and lines that reflect the views of the electorate?
In what instances does the court disagree with the popular majority?
Well, I disagree with majorities personally lots of times. But if your question is, when does the court, that's called judicial review, right? So there's a concept in the law called the counter-majoritarian difficulty. And I feel like now, Nora, I'm talking to a constitutional scholar.
No, I still need to learn.
So the counter-majoritarian difficulty means that the court has to make decisions that counter the majority will. And that's because the Constitution is designed to protect minority rights and to hold lines that popular majorities may want to break. So it may be the case that when Congress enacts a law, it has majority support. In fact, it probably does if it commanded a majority in Congress. But if that oversteps the separation of powers and oversteps Congress's authority under Article 1 of the Constitution, well, then the court has to essentially, if we want to simplify it, play the bad guy and say this might be a very, very popular policy, but unfortunately, Congress did not have the authority to enact it. And same thing for the president, same thing when the majority, when a statute might infringe on the freedom of speech. And so the court is often in the position of having to make decisions that the majority may not be pleased by.
The brilliance of the U.S. Constitution, which we have talked about, is the three branches of government. That's what makes us so unique, and why our Constitution has held for 250 years, been amended, of course, 27 times? 27 times.
Yes, 27.
The Constitution sets up the three branches of government, the legislative, executive, and judicial, designed to be separate but co-equal, establishing these checks and balances to prevent one from becoming too dominant. What would constitute a constitutional crisis?
Let's see. I don't know that I could give a definition of constitutional crisis, because I don't know that we've really faced one in this country. I think what I would say is to prevent one. Constitution sets up the three dominant. What would constitute a constitutional crisis?
Wow. She ambushed her with that question, because she started off like this so basic, like she's just like doing like a government textbook question, and then it was like, what's your take on what a constitutional crisis would be? And then she takes so long to answer the question. This is like the most pregnant fucking pause. Oh fuck.
Let's see.
Yeah.
I don't know that I could give
coming too dominant. What would constitute a constitutional crisis?
Let's see. I don't know that I could give a definition of constitutional crisis, because I don't know that we've really faced one in this country. I think what I would say is that from the
She's
beginning,
nodding.
Americans have faced a series of constitutional challenges. That's not new. That started almost
Constitutional challenges? You know, oh my God.
from the beginning. We have
Challenges.
faced times of intense political disagreement. I mean, we had the Civil War. You know, we had the
Pretty sure that was a
Reconstruction
fucking
Amendments,
constitutional
which tried to
crisis.
restore rights,
Civil War.
unsuccessfully at first because of popular resistance to, you know, African Americans and those who were former slaves. We've had we've faced the Great Depression. We faced protests during the Vietnam War. We faced a lot of tumult in the country. But we have always survived, and America's coming up on its 250th anniversary, and I think we could be proud of the way that the Constitution has held. We have the oldest written Constitution in the world, and I think we should rightly be proud of that, and has survived for a long time. I'm optimistic that it will continue to do so, and that we'll have another 250 years or more to go.
The standard bulwark conservative answer right there. It's all she had to do. She just ripped. I want to make sure I'm getting this guy's name right. Edmund Burke. Edmund Burke. He's regarded as the founder of the social and cultural philosophy of conservatism. That's all this is. She's plucked right out of Burke's fucking dick hole. Right? That's how it's been. And we've survived this long because it's held itself in place. It's the same text and it's the same precedents, and we just keep rolling along and everything's all good. Oh my God. Delusional.
And there's some noted legal scholars that, and you know, everybody has an opinion on things, and there are many people about what the Supreme Court is doing, but say we are currently in a constitutional crisis.
Well, again, I mean, I haven't said that. I mean, I think we have had many periods of deep disagreement in the country. We have had periods where there has been conflict between the court and other branches of government, or the court and the states. And we have always, like I said, come out stronger for it.
Part of the reason I asked this question is because of that thought that is building out there, that when we may be in the midst of, or the beginning of, a constitutional crisis because of the expansion of executive or presidential power, but also because two of your colleagues have talked about defiance coming from within the judiciary. Justice Gorsuch wrote in NIH versus the American Public Health Association, lower court judges may sometimes disagree with this court's decisions, but they are never free to defy them. Is that something that concerns you as well?
I think you're talking about an opinion.
It's a bit of a scary statement. Might be technically true and maybe even desirably true. Ultimately, it is the Supreme Court, so we don't really want like lower courts being in defiance of the Supreme Court. It's probably not good. But like, why are we even talking about this? I do. I was like, I do know. I was gonna say I do not know, but I do know. Because holy shit. More and more I get black pilled. I think we're like, honestly, we have to get ready for a civil fucking war. Because as soon as the first shot can be fired and it can be like we're in civil war, like it's gonna be MAGA that's gonna start it, 100%. And then they're gonna just go super unhinged and like do a bunch of violence, and they're gonna justify it. There's gonna be like one initial thing, then they're gonna say that was, Antifa threw a rock at me, and that's why I fired my gun, and then it's just boom, boom. It's gonna be that easy. It's gonna be that easy in this country. It's just gonna pop the fuck off. It's just gonna pop the fuck off, and it's gonna be misinformation to hell. It's such a black belt. I mean, obviously, I hope I'm wrong. This is the vibe I keep getting.
And that Justice Gorsuch wrote recently, I didn't join that opinion. So again, as I've said, when people write concurrences, they're, writing in their own voice, speaking for themselves. I think what Justice Gorsuch was talking about was stare decisis, which is a topic that I talk about in the book. And the basic principle of stare decisis, when you're talking about it within the judiciary, is that lower courts follow what the Supreme Court has said, the precedents that the Supreme Court articulates, because otherwise it would be chaos in the courts. So the court system is kind of like a triangle with the Supreme Court sitting at the top, goes down to the bottom. District courts are the base, the long part of the bottom of the triangle. And to maintain order in the system, the Supreme Court resolves contentious questions, usually the ones on which courts of appeals have divided, and then that settles the question throughout the judiciary. So that's just sort of a plain vanilla description of how stare decisis works.
What do you think the biggest misconception about the Supreme Court is?
I think the biggest misconception about the Supreme Court, and I think it kind of underlies some of the questions that you've raised, which come from outside the court,
the question in her answers.
Is that the court is just a partisan institution. And I can understand why people think that, especially because justices come after nomination by the president and confirmation from the Senate. But that is not how the court functions. And one important thing to see about
it hasn't been, but the past few nominations, such as yours, were very contentiously partisan. And it wasn't just fucking, it's not. That's why one of my proposals for Supreme Court justice nominations, especially if they're there for fucking life, if we don't change that shit, I think we need a higher threshold of approval in the Senate. I think it needs to be like a 2/3 kind of thing. Because that means that all the presidents, whether they're too far to the right or too far to the left, it means they're gonna have to find somebody that pleases the center, like or has broader appeal. Basically, you have to appeal to more people, because then, it's simple majority in the Senate is how you end up with her Kavanaugh. He's just so partisan, so partisan. Like the people have reasonable cause to feel that the Supreme Court is a partisan institution, and she's just like not going to address that. She said, hold on. She said, I understand, kind of.
Which come from outside the court, is that the court is just a partisan institution. And I can understand why people think that, especially because justices come after nomination by the president and confirmation from the Senate. But that is not how the court functions. Yeah. And one important thing to see about the court, and which I hope people would take away from the book, is that we do our own work. And when we go into the conference room to decide a case, it is the 9 of us. There are no law clerks present. There are no assistants present. And we show our work. We're the only branch of government that's totally transparent, because we have to lay out all the reasons for the decisions that we make. And so, I think all of those things should give the American people confidence in what the court is doing. And when I ask,
I have to read her book. I'm going to buy it.
Tradition at the court where each justice goes out to lunch with the clerks of another chambers. And I often ask the clerks, what is it that most surprised you now that you've been working here for a few months? And they often say the disconnect between what people think is going on the inside and what is actually going on the inside. People project lots of narratives on what's happening in the court in the inside that really aren't true.
You clerked for Justice Scalia.
I did.
And I spoke with a former law clerk to Justice Scalia who did not serve with you. But
another unhinged Supreme Court justice.
I ask you, how do you see your judicial philosophy different or similar to Justice Scalia?
Good question.
So I certainly learned a lot from Justice Scalia, and I would say that there is a lot of overlap. The way that he approached the Constitution, the way he interpreted statutes, his originalist and textualist approach is the same approach that I take. I would say, you asked me about my fiery pen. I would say that Justice Scalia had a fiery pen, and it was a little sharper than my pen. He was a fantastic writer, so I don't think I could hope to be as good a writer as he was. He was so vivid and so colorful. I think there is a lot of overlap. I think certainly the decisions that I have to make now are different just because
Trump's words are very vivid and colorful. It's one way to put it.
Because the docket is different. It's back to that point that I made about the court at any one particular moment in history being a mirror of the time. His time, he was facing different kinds of questions, than I'm facing now. But I think in broad strokes, really our philosophies are very much alike.
Mm-hmm. And as you write about, and justices of the past throughout history have talked about, the court really mirrors the great problems of each time, of each generation.
Yes, that's true, because, we can't go out.
Such an obvious fucking statement. Why do we bring this up again? Of course it mirror yes. Because yeah. What would be the alternative? Yes, it mirrors what's happening in society at the time. Good job. Oh, well, we're being historians. Yeah, good job. History. So this is dumb. It's like, so this, you're saying nothing here. It's like a Jordan Petersonism. You're saying something. It sounds, you think, because you think it sounds brilliant, but it's just obvious.
And pick what we want to decide. We have to take what comes. We're a passive institution in that regard. And the cases that people litigate, and so the cases that they then
Passive-aggressive.
appeal and make it up to
Accurate.
us, they only bother to litigate the things that they're really truly disagreeing about, that they feel passionately about. And then those are the cases that we see.
Mm-hmm. But there are some smart people who make sure that those particular cases get litigated so that the Supreme Court rules on them.
I think the more interest there is in the case, the higher profile the case, then the more smart lawyers really want to work on that case, because those are the exciting cases to work on, the people about which people feel most passionately.
This is a lifetime appointment.
This is a lifetime appointment.
That's a long time that you could be on this court.
Well, while I do feel older by the day, I haven't gotten so old. I'm actually thinking about retirement just yet.
I don't mean it that way. I mean it more in the context of thinking about, because this is, your first interview as a justice. And also, as I was reflecting on your role today, but also just in the future, that you could be at the forefront of some of the most important issues of our time for decades to come.
It's a privilege to serve on the court. It truly is. And I'm sure that the
optimistic view of the future.
court will continue to decide in the future, just as it has since the beginning, many of the important questions of the day. And while I haven't started thinking about retirement, because
think about this one. Oh, wait. Okay, hold on. I'll finish it first.
I like to think of myself as still relatively young, my husband does say that he will really start to be offended at some point if I don't want to retire and spend time with him.
You sure you want to say that? That's going to make news.
Rewind.
You've already, what's the phrase again? We talked about it before, the boats in.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
Burn the boats. It's already out.
Burn the boats, yes. Well, Justice Barrett, thank you for inviting us here.
Yes.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
My pleasure. Oh, so pleasured. Imagine this cinematic scenario. I'm just going to say this so that it gets recorded, even if nobody's watching. Hold on. Let me get some soda. There's a lot of ice in it. I had to be careful. Imagine this cinema. Wait, is it like that? Cinema. Imagine this cinema of Donald Trump just waking up one day after just like, having a big old shit at McDonald's. And he goes, you know what? I think the Supreme Court has a chance of turning on me. So I'm just going to do an executive order that says Supreme Court's canceled. They're done. No more Supreme Court. Because under executive such and such, I have the power to do that. He gives a pretext. Supreme Court's trying to say, like, no, what the fuck? Fuck you. And then Trump goes, nope. And he just literally just sends a bomb to the Supreme Court, but I gets everybody out of there or whatever, evacuates them and destroys the building and says, it doesn't exist. Like, what the fuck are you going to do? You said he's immune. He can't do anything criminal. What are they going to say? That's you can't do that. That's a criminal. It's illegal. You shouldn't do that. Oh, whoops. Poor Supreme Court. Anyway, that was unhinged. I can't believe. I actually had kind of high hopes for the interview. I guess. Well, I forget. See, that's what I'm glad I watched it because I forget like that she's evil. Like, truly, she's actually reminds me of Handmaid's Tale. It's very creepy, and not just in like her overall aesthetic, like in what she's trying to do actively. You can tell. I got to read her book though, because that's super. I mean, but yeah, she is going to be in the highest echelon of our government for how many decades to come. And she just wrote a book. Well, but then it's like, well, but I think it's far more interesting if it's like a Supreme Court justice because you say, well, Donald Trump wrote a book. Although I don't think Trump actually wrote the book that he said to have written, right? Like the Art of the Deal. I think he pretty sure he hired like a ghostwriter for that shit. Did he really? Hold on. The Art of the Deal ghost. All you have to type is the Art of the Deal GHO and it comes up right away. The ghostwriter for Donald Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, was Tony Schwartz. Oh, a Jew? What? What? No way. Hold on. You got it. I gotta prove it. Art. You can see it, right? Yeah. The ghostwriter for Donald Trump's book, The Art of the Deal, was Tony Schwartz. Schwartz spent 18 months interviewing Trump for the book, which was published in 1987, became a bestseller, establishing Trump's image as a masterful businessman. Schwartz has since expressed deep remorse for his role in creating the book, stating he feels he put lipstick on a pig and that the book is a work of fiction that bolstered the mythology around Trump. Wait, no way. You saw the talks about the New Yorker? What the? The window's closing. Uh-oh. Oh no. It's gonna make me it's gonna make me try to gotta make me go to rehab. Gotta make me remove the paywall. There we go. Okay. Viruses. Okay. Last June, as dust fell outside Tony Schwartz's sprawling house on a leafy back road in Riverdale, New York, he pulled out his laptop and caught up with the day's big news. Donald J. Trump declared his candidacy for president. As Schwartz watched the video, this speech began to feel personally implicated. Trump facing a crowd that gathered in the lobby of Trump Tower on Fifth Avenue laid out his qualifications, saying we need a leader that wrote the deal. If that was so, Schwartz thought, then he, not Trump, should be running. Schwartz dashed off a tweet many thanks Donald Trump for president based on that I wrote the art of the deal. Is that when he revealed it? When he tweeted that out? Probably not. Assuming this is probably some liberal guy that's probably not like Trump for a while. Probably just did a book on him because it was a financial opportunity. Schwartz had ghostwritten Trump's 1997 breakthrough memoir and a joint byline on the cover. A joint byline on the cover. Half the book's $500,000 advance. Half of the book's $500,000 advance. And half of the royalties. 50-50 split. Trump got away with a 50-50 split and didn't have to do shit. That's insane. That's insane. 50-50. When you just got to sit there eating McDonald's, drinking Diet Coke, and just like burping out answers. And the guy had to write it and get it into coherent form. He had to try to interpret the weave and write it as a book, dude. Dude, I want to meet this guy. How the fuck did he do? How the fuck did he write a book based on the shit that Trump said? Oh my god, dude. The book was a phenomenal success, spending 48 weeks on the Times bestseller 48 weeks on the Times bestseller list. Book expanded Trump's renown far beyond New York City, making him an emblem of his successful tycoon. Edward Cosner, the former president of New York, Rich Schwartz worked as a writer at the time, says Tony created Trump. He's Dr. Frankenstein. Yeah, most of the people that I've interacted with that say that like Trump, it's like he wrote the. Don't you know he wrote the heart of the deal? Don't you know that he wrote the heart of the deal? The heart of the deal. The heart of the deal. Starting in late 1980, Schwartz spent 18 months with Trump, camping out in his office. Starting with his helicopter, taking long meetings, spending weekends with him at Manhattan Martin Brothers, Florida State. During the period, Schwartz felt he had got to know him better than almost anyone else in the Trump family until Schwartz posted a tweet. Mission being a ghostwriter, glad to move on. Was about to relay than kind of something strange. I had in the book. Schwartz thought on day one it was sort of easier for you. He was likely to lie about anything. It seemed probably Trump's campaign would succeed. So Schwartz very much of Trump did not say that speech. Schwartz felt anxious. He's been Trump from his hand. Felt the disqualifying weaknesses. Trump's beguiling strengths and disqualifying weaknesses. Well, what's his beguiling strength? That he can be kind of funny in an ironic way sometimes. Many Americans always saw Trump as a charmingly brash entrepreneur with an unfailing knack for business, a mythical image that Schwartz had helped create. Pays to trust your instincts, Trump says in a book. Says in the book, adding that he was set to make $hundreds of millions after buying a hotel that he hadn't even walked through. And this is a claim to badge of honor for this guy. I was going to make hundreds of millions of dollars on a hotel I didn't even walk through. It's like, oh, cool. So literally, like, we're rewarding incompetence at this point. Great. Trump tried to purchase by establishing the front runners for nomination. Schwartz's desire to get set the record straight grew. He long since launched the energy projects, promised to improve place for him and boost physical, emotional, mental, spiritual morale. Successful company was clients such as Facebook. Schwartz's all colleagues urged him to avoid the political fray. Oh, like, yeah, don't go into politics, dude. You're going to ruin your life. Prospect of President Trump terrified him was a bit of Trump's ideology. Schwartz doubted that he had one. Problem was Trump's personality, which he considered pathologically impulsive and self-centered. Dropping away, the broad wider judge made him more billion than he is. I can't believe if Trump wins, I guess the nuclear cause of it will lead to the end of it will lead to the end of civilization. Jesus Christ. Talk about Trump derangement syndrome. Look at the very different title last week. He's the sociopath. That's what he would call it now. Jesus. He got burned by Trump by it. The idea of Trump writing an autobiography didn't originate with either Trump or Schwartz. This is what I wanted to know. How did the book even like come to be? Actually, I'm about to get off, so I'm not gonna. I was gonna tell people I'm doing this, but yeah, I'm almost done. Okay. It didn't originate with Trump or Schwartz. It began with C. Newhouse, the media magnate whose company Advanced Publications owned Random House at the time. Whoa. Continues to own Condé Nast, the parent company of this magazine. Oh shit. The parent company of this magazine, the one you're reading right now. Which is what the New Yorker? Fucking Christ. It was very definitely and almost uniquely C. Newhouse's idea. Here, as Nasuda out of the book recalls, GQ, which Condé Nast also owns, had published a cover story on Trump, and Newhouse noticed that newsstand sales had been unusually strong. GQ had published a cover story on Trump. Oh, and then they saw their sales go up. C. Newhouse, the media magnate whose company Advanced Publications owned Random House at the time. Continues to own. Jeez, this is crazy. Just the ownership structure in this country. I'm always surprised about like who owns shit. God, it's like makes me feel like a leftist. Who else called Trump about the project, then visited him to discuss it? Random House continued the pursuit with a series of meetings. At one point, Howard Kaminsky, who ran Random House, then wrapped a thick Russian novel in a dummy cover that featured a photograph of Trump looking like a conquering hero. At the top was Trump's name in large bold gold block lettering. His girls that Trump was pleased by the mock-up, but when it had one suggestion, please make my name much bigger. And that $1 million advance, Trump signed a contract. So someone just went up to Trump and said, I want to write a book about you because you made my sales go up. And got them to give him $500,000, dude, for nothing, to do nothing. How does this guy do it? Do I just need to get myself on the cover of a magazine and go tell people to buy it? Trump just like bought it his way to fame. Trump bought it his way to fame. Before it was cool. Around this time, Schwartz was one of the leading young magazine writers of the day, stopped by Trump's office in Trump Tower. Schwartz had written about Trump before. In 1985, he published a piece in New York called A Different Kind of Donald Trump Story, which portrayed him not as a brilliant mogul, but as a ham-fisted thug who had unsuccessfully tried to evict rent-controlled, rent-stabilized tenants from a building he had bought on Central Park South. Trump's efforts, which included a plan to house homeless people in the building in order to harass the tenants, became what Schwartz described as a fugue of failure, a farce of fumbling and bumbling. An accompanying cover portrait depicted Trump as unshaven, unpleasant looking, and shiny with sweat. To Schwartz's amazement, Trump loved the article. He hung the cover on the wall of his office and sent a fan note to Schwartz on his gold embossed personal stationery. Everybody seems to have read it, Trump enthused in the note, which Schwartz has kept. That's insane, dude. That's insane. That tells you right there, yeah, it's just narcissism, right? It's just like, well, everybody read it. Everybody knows who I am. Thanks. I was shocked. Trump didn't fit any model of human being I'd ever met. So he was like shocked into submission. He just was blinded by shamelessness, or stun locked by shamelessness. Trump didn't fit any model of human being I've ever met. He was obsessed with publicity. He didn't care what you wrote. Trump only takes two positions: either a scummy loser, liar, or whatever, or you're the greatest. I became the greatest. He wanted to be seen as a tough guy. He loved being on the cover. Of all the people I've written about over the years, you were certainly the best sport. Right, that's what he did to Bill Maher. He charmed him. Schwartz had returned for more, this time conducting an interview for Playboy. To his frustration, Trump kept making cryptic monosyllabic statements. Mr. Jersey wouldn't answer my questions. For 20 minutes, he said Trump explained he didn't want to reveal anything new about himself. He had just signed a lucrative book deal and needed to save his best material. What kind of book? Schwartz said. My autobiography, Trump replied. You're only 38. You don't have one yet. Schwartz joked. Yeah, I know, Trump said. If I were you, Schwartz recalls telling him, I'd write a book called The Art of the Deal. That's something people would be interested in. You're right, Trump agreed. Do you want to write it? So this guy's claiming he came up with the title. Things that never happened for 200. We don't know if this conversation is real because Trump will obviously deny it now, right? It's my title. I came up. Actually, I wrote it. I wrote the whole thing. Schwartz who? Schwartz thought it over for several weeks. He would be making a Faustian bargain. A lifelong liberal, he was hardly admired for Trump's ruthless and single-minded pursuit of profit. Oh yeah, so he has been. I was right. Yeah, he made a deal with the devil. Yeah. One of his friends in my life when I was down, he was doing the devil on the higher side. A bourgeois, intellectual family in Manhattan and attended elite private school. You know, not well these of his classmates, unlike many, they made no trust fund. I grew up privileged, but my parents made it clear you're on your own. Around the time Trump made his offer, Schwartz's wife, Deborah Pines, became pregnant. Oh, okay, his wife got pregnant around the time. Their second daughter. The family would fit in their Manhattan apartment. His mortgage was already too high. He's already overworried about money. Oh, so he got half of the 500,000. So he got 250 grand for a book about Trump. Ooh, then the question becomes, would I do it? um, well, for no particular amount of money, I would write an autobiography on Trump, but the conditions would have to be that it had to be just a factual one. And even if I would even be fine with the prompt being, or the goal of it being, give both a like positive and negative view. Which, I mean, if you're going to write like a quote unquote neutral autobiography, like, that's That's what you would do. Well, also, if it's an the book is being sold as an autobiography, but it's being written by somebody else. Basically, I have to pretend like, what would Trump say if he were to write his own autobiography about himself? That actually sounds like a really interesting challenge. And you know what? If that's what the book was, and if it's like, well, this is what I think Trump would say about himself if he were to write about himself, I actually would write that book and get paid for it because that's a fun exercise. And then I'm not like, it's fun. Trump's giving me money. What is that kind of a win for me? I mean, it's kind of what this guy did, right? It's an autobiography. Yeah, so basically, he pretended like, I'm Trump. What would Trump say about himself if he were to write a book about himself? Actually, no. I think this guy's based for doing that deal. Mm-mm. No, but the big thing is though, the other part of it. Never mind. No, not based. Sorry, he's not, because he made Trump look good, like too good, like falsely good. That would be my other stipulation. I would write it, but it would have to be like. But it's the problem though, right? Because but that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, I would have to write it in a different way to where it at least presents Trump. Just it needs to shine a spotlight on who Trump really is. I wouldn't write it in a way that makes him look good, so no one would ever pay me to write it. That's yeah. Um, there you go. That's the real answer. We got there. Okay, so he was worried about money. Same time, he knew if he took Trump's money, adopted Trump's voice, his journalism career would be badly damaged. His heroes were such literary nonfiction writers as Tom Wolfe, John McPhee, and David Halberstam. Being a ghostwriter was hack work. In the end, though, Schwartz had his price. He told Trump that if you give him half the advance and half the book's royalties, he'd take the job. Oh, and he agreed to royalties too. Oh, and the book was on the bestseller. He probably made so much. He made way more money from the royalties than the advance. Way more. You probably just look it up. Art of the Deal book royalties. Trump's in 2016, Trump's financial disclosures indicated royalties in the range of 100,000 to 1 million. What is on my nose here? Just like a scab? What's on there? 100,000, a figure that rose to over 1 million in 2018, with the book being his only title to generate income in 2018. Wait, what? Oh, does it just time out after a while? Just turns off? Gotta be a setting to change that. Yeah, I turn it back on. It's like battery 100%. Also, still at 100%? Jeez, these are like goated headphones. Damn. Um, how much did Schwartz? Well, so Schwartz must have made a fuck ton then. Whoever bought Trump's book in 2018. So see, that's why it doesn't. This guy just earned a fuck ton of royalties, and then he came out with this. Like he had nothing to lose. Ah, no spine. But I mean, I get it. I don't really blame the guy. I understand. Like I said, that's why I answered it from it. It's like, what would I have done? I probably would have taken the deal. But no though, because that wouldn't. No, I need to stop saying that. I wouldn't have taken the deal. My problem with him is that he should have been stricter about what he was willing to say. Right? I'm not. He should have been. There could have been. Should have been. If he disagreed with the portrayal of Trump, he should have just said like, "I'm not going to write this. This just makes me like a liar." So, but then he would have lost the deal. Then it like, yeah, I don't know. Trump would have like demanded the money back or something or whatever. Yeah, it would have been a nightmare for the guy. So I get it. It's kind of cucked, but I get it. It's I. I sound all right. I mean, really, because it did kind of contribute to this whole mythology of him. Yeah. Such terms are usually generous for a ghostwriter. Wait, he told you, oh, half the advance and half the book's royalties. He take the job. Such terms are unusually generous for a ghostwriter. Okay, Trump, despite having a reputation as a tough negotiator, agreed on the spot. I love the passive sassiness there. Trump, despite having a reputation as a tough negotiator, agreed on the spot. Yeah, that's a crazy deal. But you know what? It's probably because no one else would have done it. No one else would have written a book on him. That's why Trump was actually desperate. He's probably like, I don't know. That's probably why he brought it up. He was like, actually, I do believe this conversation happened now because I believe that's how Trump would passively aggressively bring it up. Oh yeah, oh it's nothing. It's got this, it's got this little book thing going on. Yeah, and I just can't really say much, It's got to write this book. He's got this little book project going on. Trump is such a little bitch, dude. Just say with your chest. Say what you want to say. Get what you want to get. Don't have people like fish it out of you, right? He plays like a humble loser. Like, come on, bro. It's cringe, cringe, cringe. How long have I been streaming for? Oh my god, almost on 3. Okay, I gotta get to bed, dude. I'm gonna be useless tomorrow. In the morning. Being a ghostwriter was hack work. Oh no, wait. Okay. Oh, here we go. It was a huge windfall. Wait, who wrote this article? I just want to know. Despite being a tough Jane Meyer, despite being a tough negotiator, agreed on the spot. That's so good. Such a good line. Usually when describe, but I was selling out. Literally, the term was invented to describe what I did. Soon, Spy was calling him former journalist Tony Schwartz. It was invented to describe what I did. Oh yeah. Schwartz thought the art of the deal would be an easy project. The book structure would be simple. He'd chronicle half a dozen or so of Trump's biggest real estate deals, dispense some bromides about how to succeed in business, and fill in Trump's life story. A researcher planned to interview Trump on a series of Saturday mornings. First session didn't go as planned, however, after Trump gave a tour of his marble and gilt apartment atop Trump Tower, which Schwartz looked unlived in, like the lobby of a hotel. They began to talk, but the discussion was soon hobbled by what Schwartz regards as one of Trump's most essential characteristics. He has no attention span. Yep, I knew it. I knew it was going to be something like that, like just like fucking talking all over the place. In those days, Schwartz recalls, Trump was generally affable with reporters, offering short, amusingly immodest quotes on demand. Trump had been forthcoming with him during the New York, well, because that's right. Trump understands snappy quotes keep you in the media. Yeah, Trump had been forthcoming with him during the New York interview, but it hadn't required much time or deep reflection. For the book, though, Trump needed to provide him with sustained, thoughtful recollections. He asked Trump to describe his childhood in detail. After sitting for only a few minutes in suit and tie, Trump became impatient and irritable. He looked fidgety, Schwartz recalls, like a kindergartner who can't sit still in a classroom. Even when Schwartz pressed him, Trump seemed to remember almost nothing of his youth. He made it clear that he was bored. Dude, I need to read more of these articles, man. It's just like, how do people not know that this is your president? This is your fucking president. Ugh. This is your fucking president. Okay? He's a fucking idiot. He's a fucking idiot. He can't sit still and talk about his childhood. He doesn't remember. We blacked it out. You're bored. He's writing a book for you. He's writing a book for you, and you can't even sit there. It's this is crazy. This is so crazy, dude. He literally did nothing. And then it's insulting the process. I'm bored. Just, can we go to McDonald's now? What if he's a fucking kid? Oh my god. Far more quickly than Schwartz had expected, Trump ended the meeting. Week after week, the pattern repeated itself. Schwartz tried to limit the sessions to smaller increments of time, but Trump's contributions remained oddly truncated and superficial. Trump has been written about 1,000 ways from Sunday, but this fundamental aspect of who he is doesn't seem to be fully understood, Schwartz told me. It's implicit in a lot of what people write, but it's never explicit, or at least I haven't seen it, and that is it's possible to keep him focused on any topic other than his own self-aggrandizement for more than a few minutes. And even then, Schwartz trailed off, shaking his head in amazement. He regrets Trump's inability to concentrate as alarming as a presidential candidate. If he had to be briefed on a crisis situation room, it's impossible to imagine him paying attention over a long period of time. And this was a problem then. I'm assuming this is not something that gets better as you age. In a recent phone interview, Trump told me that, to the contrary, he has the skill that matters most in a crisis, the ability to forge compromises. The reason he touted the art of the deal in his announcement, he explained, was that he believes that recent presidents have lacked his toughness and finesse. Look at the trade deficit with China. Look at the Iran deal. I made a fortune by making deals. I do that. I do that well. That's what I do. I didn't want to try to do the actual Trump voice because I can't do it, and it sucks. She wrote this in 2016. This is from 20. This is an article from 2016. Did nobody read this? Trump didn't write his own fucking book. Like, this is crazy. Just this. This is written in July of 2016. Oh. Kill me in GTA. Uh, Wait. Okay. But Schwartz believes that Trump's short attention span has left him with a stunning level of superficial knowledge and plain ignorance, he said. That's why he so prefers TV as his first news source. Information comes in easily digestible sound bites, he added. I seriously doubt that Trump has ever read a book straight through in his adult life. During the 18 months that he observed Trump, Schwartz said he never saw a book on Trump's desk or elsewhere in his office or in his apartment. Other journalists have noticed Trump's apparent lack of interest in reading. His lack of interest in reading. This is the president of the United States. I mean, you know what? Didn't George Bush graduate from Yale? Didn't George fucking Bush, at the very fucking least, graduate from goddamn motherfucking Yale? Went to Harvard Business School. Oh, Harvard. Oh, Harvard Business School. Just kidding. Harvard Business School. Wait, so he wasn't a lawyer? Don't you have to be a lawyer to go to Harvard? Wait, yeah. Wait, where's the Yale part? Missed. Oh. He attended Yale University, graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in history. So he went to Yale, but he majored in history. Okay. And then in fall of 1973, Bush entered Harvard Business School. Okay. See, if you really dig into the education, I mean, it's not. Obviously, these are good schools and everything, but okay. So he knows about history and business. Those aren't the most impressive qualifications for president. Okay. I think Obama's were probably way better. Obama. Obama. Let's see. Obama's gonna knock it out of the park. Here we go. Hold on. Wait, I just want to get an overview of what schools. What schools? Where's the schools? Here we go. Columbia University and Harvard. He got Obama has his J fucking D, brother. I already see it. Already saw it. Oh, wait, family, personal life. No, fuck that. Here we go. University of Chicago Law School. Damn. Damn. Columbia major in political science with a specialty in international relations and in English literature. Graduated with a Bachelor of Arts degree in 1983 and a 3.7 GPA. Bro, Obama's a smart guy. He's fucking smart little dude. And then he went on to further school. After graduating, Obama worked for about a year at the Business International Corporation, where he was a financial researcher and writer. That is a project coordinator for the New York Public Interest Research Group. 2 years after graduating from Columbia, Obama moved from New York to Chicago, where he was hired as the director of the Developing Communities Project, faith-based community organization. Despite being offered a full scholarship to the Northwestern University School of Law, Obama enrolled at Harvard Law School in the fall of 1988. And then, so he didn't, wait, so he did get his JD from there. Wait. First black president of the Harvard Law Review. Damn. Oh, yeah, Obama graduated from Harvard Law in 91. Oh, that's when I was born. 1991. With a Juris Doctor magna cum laude. This is the one where you're like in the top 10% of your class, right? And then Summa is like you're like in the top 1%. So it's like Sigma. With praise, with great praise, with highest praise. Yeah. So here we go. Yeah, it says. So summa cum laude would be summa super cum laude would be 1, 2 or 5% of the class, depending on the institution. Magma cum laude. So super cum laude, magma cum laude. Wait, well, this sounds like it would be more. Mega cum laude, meaning just with great praise. So that's if you're in the top 5, 10, or 15%, depending on the institution. And then a regular cum laude is just with praise in the top 20, 25, or 33% of the class. Okay. So he was in the mega. So he was in the 5, 10, or 15%. Damn, Obama. Obama. Other journalists have noticed Trump's apparent lack of interest in reading. That was the sentence that triggered me into the tangent. In May, Megyn Kelly, Fox News, asked him to name his favorite book other than the Bible or The Art of the Deal. Oh, got him. Trump picked the 1929 novel All Quiet on the Western Front. Evidently suspecting that many years had elapsed since he'd read it, Kelly asked Trump to talk about the most recent book he'd read. I read passages, I read areas, I'll read chapters. I don't have the time, Trump said. As the New Republic noted recently, this attitude is not shared by most U.S. presidents, including Barack Obama, a habitual consumer of current books, and George W. Bush, who reportedly engaged in a fiercely competitive book reading contest with his political advisor, Karl Rove. See, even George, even with it before I got there, even George Bush read books and was like known for it. That's insane. I need to read more books. I don't read enough books, dude. People can say this about me. They're like, what's your favorite book? Oh, I don't know. Oh, shit. But next question. Trump's first wife, Ivana, famously claimed that Trump kept a copy of Adolf Hitler's collected speeches in minute order in a cabinet beside his bed. Political advisor Karl Rove. Oh, I can add books to my list because I'm in school right now. So I can say I can actually say I'm currently reading through Scott Shapiro's, whatever the name of the book is, Legality. Oh, okay. It was clear that Trump kept up a copy of Adolf Hitler's collected speeches in minute order. Wait, hold on, wait. I can't just skip over that sentence. Trump's first wife, Ivana, famously claimed that Trump kept a copy of Adolf Hitler's collected speeches, minute order, in a cabinet beside his bed. In 1990, Trump's friend Marty Davis, who was then an executive at Paramount, added credence to this story, telling Mary Brenner of Vanity Fair that he'd given Trump the book. I thought he would find it interesting, Davis told her. What? When Brenner asked Trump about it, however, he mistakenly identified the volume as a different work by Hitler, Mein Kampf. Apparently, he had not so much as read the title. If I had read these speeches, and I'm not saying that I do, I would never read them, Trump told Brenner. What? I don't get what this. I didn't get what the story of that behind that was. My New Order. Cabinet beside his bed. 1990, Trump's friend Marty Davis, who was then executive Paramount, Brenner Vanity Fair, that had given Trump the book. Thought he would find it interesting. When Brenner asked Trump about it, however, he mistakenly identified. When Brenner asked Trump about it, however, he mistakenly identified the volume as a different work by Hitler, Mein Kampf. Oh, Trump did. Okay. Okay. He was growing desperate. Schwartz provided a strategy for trapping Trump into giving more material. Many plans to spend the weekend with Trump at Mar-a-Lago's mansion in Palm Beach, where there would be fewer distractions. As they chatted in the garden, Ivana icily walked by, clearly annoyed that Schwartz was competing for her husband's limited free time. Trump began growing impatient. Long before lunch on Saturday, Schwartz recalls Trump essentially threw a fit. He stood up and announced that he couldn't stand any more questions. What a fucking baby, dude. Like, who cares? Like, about your fucking wife problems. This guy's trying to write you a book. Make you fucking... And he did. Made him fucking millions of dollars just from the sales of it. It's insane, dude. Schwartz went to his room, called his literary agent, Kathy Robbins, and told her that he couldn't do the book. Robbins confirms this. Oh, the literary agent confirmed the call. Interesting. Okay. It's good to know. See, it's like confirmatory evidence, yeah. Schwartz headed back to New York, though. He came up with another plan. He would propose eavesdropping on Trump's life by following him around on the job, and more important, by listening in on his office phone calls. That way, extracting extended reflections from Trump would not be required. When Schwartz presented the idea to Trump, he loved it. Almost every day from then on, Schwartz sat about 8 feet away from him in the Trump Tower office, listening on an extension of Trump's phone line. Schwartz says that none of the bankers, lawyers, brokers, reporters who called Trump realized that they were being monitored. Calls usually didn't last long, and Trump's assistant facilitated the conversation hopping. While he was talking with someone, she often came in with a post-it note informing him of the next caller on hold. He was playing people, Schwartz recalls. On the phone with business associates, Trump would flatter, bully, and occasionally get mad, but always in a calculated way. When the discussion ended, Trump would share the news of his latest success, Schwartz says. Instead of saying goodbye at the end of a call, Trump customarily signed off with, "You're the greatest." There wasn't a single call that Trump deemed too private for Schwartz to hear. He loved the attention, Schwartz recalls. If he could have had 300,000 people listening in, he would have been even happier. That's crazy. It made him feel important. Like, oh, I have a writer who's following me around to write my biography. You know, like he just wears it as a badge of honor. This year, Schwartz has heard some that argue that there must be a more thoughtful and nuanced version of Donald Trump that he's keeping in reverse for after the campaign. There isn't, Schwartz insists. There's no private Trump. This is not a matter of hindsight. While working on the art of the deal, Schwartz kept a journal in which he expressed his amazement at Trump's personality, writing that Trump seemed driven entirely by a need for public attention. There is no private Trump. Interesting. Yeah. All he is stomp, 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 recognition from outside, bigger, more, a whole series of things. It's a 100%. What are we doing here? Well, he's watching me anyway. Gotta finish this shit. This is really interesting. God damn it. Wait, am I? Oh yeah, it's at the bottom now. Okay, good. He stomp, stomp, stomp. Okay. Go nowhere in particular, he observed on October 21st, 1996. But as he noted in the journal a few days later, the book will be far more successful if Trump is a sympathetic character, even weirdly sympathetic, than if he's just hateful or worse yet, a one-dimensional blowhard. Eavesdropping solved the interview problem, but it presented a new one. During Trump's discussion about business on the phone, Schwartz asked him brief follow-up questions. He then tried to amplify the material he got from Trump by calling others involved in the deals, but their accounts often directly conflicted with Trump's. Lying is second nature to him, Schwartz said. More than anyone else I've ever met, Trump has the ability to convince himself that whatever he is saying at every given was true, or sort of true, or at least ought to be true. Or at least ought to be true. Often Schwartz said the lies that Trump told him were about money. How much he had paid for something, or what a building he owned was worth, or how much one of his casinos was earning when it was actually on his way to bankruptcy. Trump bragged that he paid only $8 million for Mar-a-Lago, but omitted that he bought a nearby strip of beach for a record sum. After gossip columns prevailed, or gossip columns reported erroneously that Prince Charles was considering buying several apartments in Trump Tower, Trump implied that he had no idea where the rumor had started. It certainly didn't hurt us, he says in there of the deal. Wayne Barrett, a reporter for the Village Voice, later revealed that Trump himself had planted the story with journalists. There was also suspect that Trump engaged in such media tricks and asked about a story making the rounds, that Trump often called up news outlets using a pseudonym. Trump did deny it. Schwartz recalls he smirked and said, "You like that, do you? You like that, do you?" God, he always just says things that just make him sound more and more like a rapist. You like that, don't you? Schwartz says of Trump, he lied strategically, had a complete lack of conscience about it. Since most people are constrained by the truth, Trump's indifference to it gave him a strange advantage. Right. Challenged about the facts, Schwartz says Trump would often double down, repeat himself, and grow belligerent. His quality was recently on display after Trump posted on Twitter a derogatory image of Hillary Clinton, a 6-pointed star lifted from a white supremacist website. Campaign staffers took the image down, but 2 days later, Trump angrily defended it, insisting that there was no anti-Semitic implication. Whenever the thin veneer of Trump's vanity is challenged, Schwartz says he overreacts on an ideal quality head of state. True. Very true. When Schwartz began writing The Art of the Deal, he realized that he needed to put an acceptable face on Trump's loose relationship with the truth. Acceptable face on Trump's loose relationship with the truth. So he concocted an artful euphemism. Writing in Trump's voice, he explained to the reader, I play to people's fantasies. People want to believe that something is the biggest and the greatest and the most spectacular. I call it truthful hyperbole. It's an innocent form of exaggeration. It's a very effective form of promotion. First time disavows the passage. Deceit, he told me, is never innocent. Truthful hyperbole is a contradiction in terms. So I'm saying it's a lie, but who cares, Trump, he said. Loved the phrase. Yeah, pretty bad. It normalizes it. I mean, it makes it even sound good. Like, I play to people. Well, he's kind of explaining why Trump is so appealing to people, though. So in a way, it's kind of an interesting book, but in a different, like, ironic way. In his journal, Schwartz describes the process of trying to make Trump's voice palatable in the book. It was kind of a trick, he writes, to mimic Trump's blunt, staccato, no apologies delivery while making him seem almost boyishly appealing. One strategy was to make it appear that Trump was just having fun at the office. I try not to take any of what's happened too seriously, Trump says in the book. The real excitement is playing the game. Trump doesn't even sound like that. Like, how do people believe that this was Trump's voice? It's insane, dude. In his journal, Schwartz wrote, Trump stands for many of the things I abhor. His willingness to run over people, the gaudy, tacky, gigantic obsessions, the absolute lack of interest in anything beyond power and money. Looking back at that, we should just release his journals. He probably has now at this point, right? Looking back at the text now, Schwartz says, I create a character far more winning than Trump actually is. The first line of the book is an example. I don't do it for the money, Trump declares. I've got enough, much more than I'll ever need. I do it to do it. Deals are my art form. Other people paint beautifully on canvas or write wonderful poetry. I like making deals, preferably big deals. That's how I get my kicks. Oh God, like this just oh God. It doesn't sound like Trump. It sounds like if you asked Chat GPT to write a book from Trump's perspective. Like listen to that. I don't do it for the money. I've got enough, much more than I'll ever need. I do it to do it. Deals are my art form. Other people paint beautifully on canvas or write wonderful poetry. I like making deals, preferably big deals. That's how I get my kicks. I can just hear Maya saying it now. Schwartz now laughs at this depiction of Trump as a devoted artisan. Of course he's in it for the money, he said. One of the most deep and basic needs he has is to prove that I'm richer than you. That's for the idea that making deals is a form of poetry. Schwartz says he was incapable of saying something like that. It wouldn't even be in his vocabulary, right? He gave him like too good of a metaphor. He saw Trump as driven up by a pure love of deal making, but an insatiable hunger for money, praise, and celebrity. Also, why is even deal making? Why would that even be a noble virtue in the first place? Often, after spending the day with Trump and watching him pile one hugely expensive project top and next, like a circus performer spinning plates, Schwartz would go home and tell his wife he's a living black hole. Schwartz reminded himself that he was being paid to tell Trump's story, not his own. But the more he worked on the project, the more disturbing he found it. In his journal, he describes the hours he spent with Trump as draining and deadening. Schwartz told me that Trump's need for attention is completely compulsive. It is really interesting that he spent so much time with him. But he probably has a lot of insights into the guy, yeah. His bid for the presidency part of Continuum. He managed to keep increasing the dose for 40 years. After he'd spent decades as a tabloid titan, the only thing left was running for president. If he could run for emperor of the world, he would. His heroes every chapter after some supposedly brilliant deal. Schwartz concluded there were a case in which there was no way to make Trump look good, so he sidestepped unflattering incidents and details. I didn't consider it my job to investigate, he says. Schwartz also tried to avoid the strong whiff of cronyism that hovered over some deals. In his 1986 journal, he describes what a challenge was to put his best foot forward writing about one of Trump's first triumphs, the development starting in 1975 of the Grand Hyatt Hotel on the site of the former Commodore Hotel next to Grand Central Terminal. In order for the hotel, Trump required an extremely large tax abatement. Richard Ravitch, who was then in charge of the agency that had the authority to grant such tax breaks to developers, calls it he declined to grant the abatement. Trump got so unpleasant that I had to tell him to get out. Trump got it anyway, largely because key city officials received years of donations from his father, Fred Trump, who was a major real estate developer in Queens. Wayne Barrett, who's reporting for The Voice, informed his definitive 1991 book, Trump, the Deals and the Downfall, says it was all Fred's political connections that created the abatement. In addition, Trump suckered rivals into believing that he had an exclusive option from the city on the project when he didn't. Trump also deceived his partner in the deal, Jay Pritzker, the head of the Hyatt hotel chain. Pritzker rejected an unfavorable term proposed by Trump, but at the closing, Trump forced it through, knowing that Pritzker was on a mountain in Nepal and could not be reached. Schwartz wrote in his journal that almost everything about the hotel deal had an immoral cast. As the ghostwriter, he was trying hard to find my way around behavior that he considered, if not reprehensible, at least morally questionable. Many tall tales that Trump told Schwartz contained a kernel of truth, but made him out to be cleverer than he was. One of Trump's favorite stories about how he had tricked the company that owned Holiday Inn into becoming a partner in Atlantic City Casino. Probably quite executive fears of construction delays by race constructors. In ordering his construction suppliers to make a vacant lot that he owned look like the most active construction site in the history of the world. It looked as if it were in the midst of building the Grand Coulee Dam. The stunt, Trump claimed, pushed the deal through. After the book came out, through a consultant for Trump's casinos, Al Glasgow, who is now deceased, told Schwartz it never happened. There had been one or two trucks, but not the fleet that made it a great story. Schwartz tamped down some of Trump's swagger, but plenty of it remained. The manuscript that Random House published was, depending on your perspective, either entertainingly insightful or shamelessly self-aggrandizing. It borrowed a title from Norman Mailer, who frequently attended prize fights at Trump's Atlantic City hotels. The book could have been called "Advertisements for Myself." I mean, really, yeah. Like that's a story's unhinged. You like isn't that fraud? He's like admitting to it in the book in writing. 2005, Timothy L. O'Brien, an award-winning journalist who is currently executive editor of Bloomberg View, published Trump Nation, a meticulous investigative biography. Trump unsuccessfully sued him for libel. O'Brien has taken a close look at the art of the deal, and he told me that might be best characterized as a nonfiction work of fiction. Trump's life story, as told by Schwartz, honestly chronicled a few setbacks, such as Trump's disastrous 1983 purchase of the New Jersey Generals football team and the flailing United States Football League. But O'Brien believes that Trump used the book to turn almost every step of his life, both personal and professional, into a glittering fable. Some of the falsehoods in the art of the deal are minor. Despite bended Trump's claims that Ivana had been a top model and alternate on the Czech Olympic ski team, Barrett notes that in the art of the deal, Trump describes his father as having been born in New Jersey to Swedish parents. In fact, he was born in the Bronx to German parents. Decades later, Trump spread falsehoods about Obama's origins, claiming it's possible that the president was born in Africa. It's ridiculous. Now that Donald Trump portrays himself as a warm family man with endless admirers. He praises Ivana's taste and business skill. He said you can't bet against Ivana. She proved me right. But Schwartz noticed little warmth of communication between Trump and Ivana. He later learned that while the art of the deal was being written, Trump began an affair with Marla Maples, who became his second wife. He divorced Ivana in 1992. As far as Schwartz could tell, Trump spent very little time with his family, had no close friends. In the art of the deal, Trump describes Roy Cohn, his personal lawyer, in the warmest terms, calling him the sort of guy who'd be there at your hospital bed, literally standing by you to death. Cohn, who lives in the 50s, assisted Senator Joseph McCarthy in his vicious crusade against communism, was closeted. He felt abandoned by Trump when he became fatally ill from AIDS and said Donald pisses ice water. Schwartz says of Trump, He liked people when they were helpful and turned on them when they weren't. It wasn't personal. He's a transactional man. It was all about what you could do for him. Crazy. According to Barrett, among the most misleading aspects of the idea was the idea that Trump made it largely on his own, with only minimal help from his father, Fred. Barrett in his book notes that Trump once declared, "A working man likes me because he knows I didn't inherit what I built, and that he ideally decides wealthy heirs as a member of the Lucky Sperm Club." He derides wealthy heirs as a member of the Lucky Sperm Club. The working man likes me because he knows I didn't inherit what I built. He's like explaining how he tricks the working men into liking him. Trump's self-portrayal as a Horatio Alger figure has buttressed his popular appeal into 2016, but his origins were hardly humble. God damn it, it's getting so late. Okay, whatever. Yeah, Trump's a crook. I get it. Okay, whatever. I gotta go to bed. Bye.